when just 27 single male asylum seeker illegal migrants were bussed into their military training camp. Behind me are local residents, people from all over the country. Shabana Mahmood has said that this is an effective way of getting rid of those expensive, flashy asylum hotels. But unfortunately, these people are still placed within the community.
Whole town is very afraid because these are unvetted men from countries that are, the government warn us not to go to. I've got an 18-year-old daughter and she gets the bus opposite camp.
Do you feel safe for her?
No, so that will have to stop. Right. We'll either have to wait with her or take her to wherever she needs to go.
The reason I'm here today is because I live in Crowborough and my family, I've got a wife and children, and just worried about, my wife walking to work and my sons, walking about. Anything can happen, can't it, that nowadays and age, what's going on, what's happening in this country. So I'm just concerned and frightened,
There was support from other towns, other communities, because of course Shabana Mahmood has threatened other communities, and she said they're going to open site after site after site. Well, I would hope that if she's going to try and do that, she learns some lessons about the way she's done it in Crowborough, because this is not finished. We are not finished objecting to this plan.
Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no!
We would urge her to reconsider. And whatever she does, she needs to talk to the people that she's imposing these things on.
If you had a direct line to Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood, what would you say to them?
Look after your most vulnerable first. It's your priority to look after your vulnerable.
If they're bringing...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side, this is Talk.
Two minutes past 6, welcome to Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan. A very big 4 hours to come. Breaking this morning, Starmer on the brink as the Prime Minister's poll rating slips to -49, with a clear majority of the public that support all political parties wanting him out. Well, he is now provably and statistically the least popular Prime Minister since records began. But here's a question for you at 3 minutes past 6. Is he the worst ever? Is Starmer Britain's worst ever Prime Minister? And if so, why? Give me your reasons. 0344 499 1000. We'll bring you the latest on a leader that has months, if not weeks, to survive in the top job. Could MPs move to unseat him, I should say, before the May elections? You may notice a slight rasp in my voice. Well, I'm in the full grip of the man flu. But let me tell you that whilst the voice is wobbling, I am bringing you some truth bombs this morning. We've got a show to do. The show must go on, folks, because of massive, massive stories, including a fresh Labour scandal. Following the release of more Epstein files, it's been revealed that former Labour business secretary and the architect of the Tony Blair political revolution, Lord Peter Mandelson, requested that thousands of pounds a month were funneled into the bank account of his Brazilian lover. You heard me right. What does it say about the judgment of the Prime Minister Keir Starmer? This is the same bloke that was appointed ambassador to the United States in 2024. Former Labour government minister says to a convicted paedophile, please pump money into my lover's bank account. And executive producer Dean Spencer, total silence from establishment media. Can you imagine the furore if it was a former Conservative government minister. Just let that sink in for a moment. Imagine if it was an ex-Tory MP or Prime Minister, or indeed a serving Reform UK politician that asked a paedophile to put money in their lover's bank account. And speaking of scandal, a fresh headache for King Charles. And it's in regard to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The Epstein files reveal that the disgraced late paedophile fixed up a lunch between Andrew and a beautiful young Russian woman with an email saying Andrew is delighted and wants you to pass on his number to this young woman. How do you solve a problem like Andrew Mountbatten Windsor? What can King Charles do about his problematic brother and the bad headlines that just won't go away? Keir Starmer, minus 49 in the polls. Even the lefties can't stand him now. Is he the worst Prime Minister ever? And if so, give me your reasons. 0344 499 1000 is my phone number. Young Matthew is taking your calls, so give him a call. Say, hi, Matthew. I want to go on Talk Breakfast with Mark Dolan, and I want to tell you why Keir Starmer is the worst Prime Minister in history. By the way, we're very fair, aren't we, Producer Dean? If you think he's a great Prime Minister, I'm all ears. Because I'm one of those rare broadcasters that lets everyone have their view. What I won't do is gaslight you, bully you, belittle you, patronise you. If you think it, we're putting it on the radio and we're putting it on TV. 0344 499 1000, text the word talk and your message to 87222, or leave me a voice note because you're busy, folks. It is Saturday morning and your weekend starts here, as the saying goes. Let's talk. I'm going to get you set up for a big weekend. I'm delighted to say I've got 3 more days in my on-air run. Saturday, Sunday and Monday. Thank you for having me. So much to get through. Shall we have a look at the front pages? Now, directing our TV output today is Davis. And Davis is the best in the business. So we're loving having you listening on the radio, on DAB+, in-app and online. But this is a TV network too. And therefore, if you want to watch the show and you want to see me doing stuff like... I get frustrated and I throw things around the studio. So if you want to see that, just head over to YouTube and search Talking Up We Pop. It's a TV show and it's a radio show. And Davis is directing our TV output and he's got amazing stuff. You've got footage of people going in and out of buildings. It's much better than Sky News, which is so boring. Have you... I took a look, only because I spoke to the boss about this earlier. I said, look, I'll keep an eye on the rivals to see what they're doing. LBC, well, they basically talk down to their audience, right? Yell at them and bully them. It's not going to happen on my watch. Sky News, or BBC, left-wing and biased, obviously, crazy woke. They still don't know what a woman is. Sky News, just boring. Just absolutely boring. And the other night, paper review, 3 women, right? Is that not sexist? Where are the men? Is that not... Engineer Dave's not happy about that. Engineer Dave is not a fan of quotas. Can you imagine the furore on Sky News if it was 3 blokes? 3 white blokes? Forget it. I mean, if it was 3 middle-aged heterosexual white men, you can shut the network down. There'll be an inquiry. HR will get involved. 3 straight white men on TV at the same time, gleichzeitig, as the Germans say. Do me a favour. Anyhow, look, let's get to the front pages. So Dixon is directing our TV output, which isn't woke, and it's not box ticking. What I do, Dean and I, we run this show with a dream team, and we just put the best people on the show who have knowledge, have opinions. For example, the comic genius that is Steve N. Allen, who's waiting in the wings to come on the show. He's in and out the toilet this morning every half hour. I don't know why. And he seems to, you know, he's very twitchy, but he'll be on at 15:15, looking forward to that. But that's what we do. And so therefore, it is a TV output as well, and you're welcome to watch it, which is YouTube, and then search Talking Up We Pop. And what Dixon will do is give you the front pages. So Dixon, I've done it again. Davis, please give us the Daily Telegraph. And the headline from the Daily Telegraph is as follows. Epstein email to Andrew, I have Russian friend for you. She is 26. This is quite shocking. It's absolutely damning. Jeffrey Epstein offered to introduce Andrew Mountbatten Windsor to a beautiful 26-year-old woman. Emails released by the US Justice Department have revealed. The late disgraced financier offered to introduce the former Duke to a woman named only as Irina in an email sent in August 2010, 2 years after Epstein was convicted for soliciting a minor for prosecution. Mountbatten Windsor previously claimed that he'd cut contact with Epstein after an investigation was launched in 2006, only getting in touch to end their relationship in person in late 2010. So just to let you process this for a second, Jeffrey Epstein is a billionaire financier. No one really knows how he made his money. The whole thing is shrouded in mystery. And he's convicted in a US court of trafficking women for sex. After that, Andrew continues the relationship, the friendship with this guy, which is just not, it's not misjudgment, is it? That is Andrew behaving egregiously. I mean, it's so wrong to stay in touch with someone convicted of that crime. Surely, if you knew someone that was committed of that crime, would you be still WhatsApping them? Would they be in your little social grouping? I don't think so. They'd be gone. But Andrew stayed in touch. And you've got, these aren't allegations, by the way. This is documentary evidence that Epstein was messaging Andrew saying, I've got this lovely Russian young woman and you're going to have lunch with her, and she's intelligent and she's beautiful. Now, if this was just about, I don't know, fact-finding, and maybe Andrew is very interested in the history of Russia or something, or very curious about Anglo-Russian relations, or if this is Andrew as a trade ambassador trying to drum up a bit of business from Moscow, then you might say you're going to have lunch with this young woman. She happens to be young, doesn't matter, but she's very intelligent, she's very well-connected, yada, yada. No. She's beautiful. Why would you add that detail that she's beautiful? Well, you can only wonder. Andrew, of course, denies all serious allegations made against him, but it's a hideous headline for King Charles to have to deal with on a Saturday morning. He won't be happy. How do you solve a problem like Andrew? But the other story, and I'm disappointed that it's not on the front pages of any of the newspapers, but we'll put it on the front page of this show, which is Lord Peter Mandelson, the architect of Tony Blair's traitorous political revolution in which they sold this country down the river with things like the Human Rights Act, which makes it hard for us to deport foreign criminals. Peter Mandelson was the business secretary at exactly the same time that Epstein was pumping thousands of pounds into the bank account of Lord Mandelson's lover. And this email pertains to £4,000 a month. And this is a former Labour government minister. Can you imagine if it was a Tory? Can you imagine if it was a Reform UK MP? You'd never hear the end of it. And yet, where is it in the papers today? It's nowhere to be seen. It's a media cover-up, isn't it? Well, we won't cover it up here on Talk Breakfast. Times now, the Times of London, of course, the newspaper of record in this country, which is quite literally composed about 3 or 4 floors away from where I'm sitting this morning. Epstein invited to palace. Andrew asked paedophile to visit a month after release. 3 million pages of files revealed. Let me tell you something else. There's another guy. I feel slightly sorry for the king because Andrew is being used as the whipping boy when it comes to this Epstein scandal, right? When you hear about Jeffrey Epstein, it's Andrew this, Andrew that. Well, I'm so sorry because, in fact, just in terms of numbers, it is the US media and corporate elite that are really, really sweating the small stuff today, because you've got Bill Gates, who reportedly experienced a STD, which is a sexually transmitted disease, from someone that allegedly, reportedly, he'd been introduced to by Epstein. Okay, I mean, the allegations are quite wild that he asked Epstein, Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, asked Epstein for access to antibiotics that he could secretly give to his wife because of an STD that he was carrying. Now, these are allegations that Bill Gates will unilaterally deny, and of course he should have his day in court. We shouldn't have trial by jury. But what's come out with the Epstein files is messages from Gates to Epstein saying, got this infection, need some pills, how can I secretly give them to Melinda? How's she feeling this morning? Reading that with her morning cup of Joe, her ex-husband. Luckily, she's got a few billion reasons not to feel too bad. But that's a shocking story. Why are the Americans getting off scot-free? It's all Andrew, Andrew, Andrew. What about Bill Clinton? Now, the private jet of Jeffrey Epstein was known as the Lolita Express. And Bill Clinton was never off that plane, Dean. It was like a bus service for him. And so where's the accountability? I do think that the Brits, to a degree, have been thrown under the bus here, particularly in relation to Prince Andrew, who denies all allegations. The whole thing stinks. Politicians, multimillionaires, and of course so many politicians on the left, including Bill Clinton and Lord Mandelson. The weekend, half of voters want Keir Starmer replaced now in his worst ever ratings. 51% say Labour should change leader, with only 21% wanting him to stay. Starmer falls to his lowest negative ratings of all time, -49. For the first time, the PM has lost the support of voters who backed him and Labour in the 2024 election. Burnham is the front runner among those who want change, with 24 supporting, but no consensus on a successor. Reform builds a 12-point lead over Labour as the Tories stall. You've got Reform on 32%, Labour 20%, Tory 17%, the Greens 13%. Can we just deal with a few things here? First of all, regarding Starmer, so he's done, okay? It's not a question of when. So it's when, not if, right? The guy he's toast. I think that Labour MPs may move after the by-election. The by-election is going to be a disaster. Labour are going to lose that. And it's going to look bad on the Prime Minister because he blocked the candidacy of Andy Burnham, who likely would have won that seat. So what you've got is an unpopular Prime Minister who blocks a candidate that can win the seat. He then loses that seat. He's on -49. You've got Labour voters want him out. So I think there's every chance that Labour will move before the May elections. Because we've been talking about, will he make it to Christmas? Or will he be a stuffed turkey? Gobble, gobble. Well, I think the smart money is on something happening before May. Why? Well, because in the May elections, Labour will lose control of the country locally. It's gone. And of course, the guy hasn't got control nationally because his backbenchers are so left-wing that he can't actually roll out his own policies. Sometimes, and this will shock you at 17 minutes past 6 in the morning on a Saturday, your weekend starts here, you're welcome. Sometimes Starmer tries to do the right thing, such as cut the scope of disability benefits by 5 billion quid, which is not a lot, but it was the right thing to do. You see, this is not an echo chamber. If they do good stuff, I'll say it. Shabana Mahmood, she's an OK Home Secretary. She's the least bad member of that Labour cabinet. With her changes to indefinite leave to remain, it's a step in the right direction. OK? Well, Starmer wanted to cut disability benefits because we live beyond our means, and the backbenchers wouldn't let him do it. What's going to happen after May is they will lose control locally. So you've got a Prime Minister that runs nothing. He'll be the ultimate lame duck. And therefore, I think that it's very possible that Labour MPs, we need 80 to move against him. And I think they may, in order to prevent a bloodbath. Because what's the worst that can happen if they get rid of him, right? Surely that will shore up some of Labour's support. But can you not give me this Andy Burnham BS? Sorry, is it just me, folks, at 6:19 on a Saturday morning, your weekend starts here? Is it just me, or is that guy a preening narcissist? Old Andy Burnham, doesn't he love himself? He loves his reflection. Oh, it's Andy this, Andy that. The guy's a total charlatan. He used to be the most right-wing member of the Labour Party. He was an acolyte of Tony Blair. He was one of the faces of New Labour, and now he reckons he's Jeremy Corbyn. Do me a favour. He's a charlatan, he's a fake, he's a fraud, and he's only doing that. He's only shifted left rhetorically because he knows, because at least he's politically smart, that you only become the leader of this Labour Party if you're left-wing. And that's why, although Starmer is the least popular Prime Minister since records began, and I believe the worst, his replacement will be even worse than that because there'll be more left-wing. You'll have more net zero, more open borders, more borrowing, more tax, more spend, more unemployment, more inflation, less growth. It's not good. So much to get through. My star guest is next. This is Talk Breakfast at 6:20.
Paying more at the till for this epidemic of shoplifting. And of course, many of the major retailers these days have what they call non-intervention policies for their security staff. So they are actually instructed not to intervene, other than perhaps the very, very basic of stopping somebody, asking them to return the goods. And if they don't, they simply walk out with impunity.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Sharon has messaged the show. Talk Breakfast 6:22, I hope you're well. By the way, the voice is on the wobble, right? I'm in the grip of the man flu. But I'm a little bit like you, which is I get up in the morning and I go to work, right? I'm not going to do this snowflake thing of go, oh, I've got a sniffle, I shall remain in bed. The show must go on, as Freddie Mercury famously sang. And but that what it means is I'm going to ask you guys to do all the talking. So the phone number is 03444991000, and I'm going to let you do a lot of the all of the wise truth bombs, actually, including your texts. Sharon says, good morning, Mark. Starmer has no shame. He can see how unpopular he is, but he won't go. We don't like him, and we, the British public, want him to go right now. And Sharon adds, Burnham cannot save the Labour government either. Lisa in Northern Ireland. Good morning, Lisa. Lovely to have you listening to the show. She says, good morning, Mark. As I heard Tom Slater say, Andy Burnham is just Starmer in jeans. That is outstanding. David says, good morning, Mark. Why do you feel sorry for the King in regard to Prince Andrew and the Epstein files? He's as bad as Andrew, best pals with Jimmy Savile. Fair point. Can't argue with that. Listen, I'm delighted to say that Live in the Studio is one of the finest broadcasters in the country and one of the most crafted and gifted comedians out there, Stephen Allen. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. I was waiting for one of those, but before him, here's Stephen Allen. I thought you were setting up one of those.
You are the best priced comedian at the
That's right.
early hours of the Mark Dolan show here on Talk. Listen, so good to see you and lots to get through. Shall we start with Starmer? We do have a little bit of, I don't know, we're desensitised to the bad statistics around the Prime Minister, aren't we? You know, it was some time ago that he hit the threshold of least popular Prime Minister since records began.
Yeah.
But that's got worse now. -49, less popular than Liz Truss after the mini budget. in which she crashed the economy.
That's going some, isn't it?
Isn't it?
That's impressive.
Why is it that he's so unpopular? Because hasn't he just inherited a mess from the Conservatives? He didn't break Britain in a year and a half.
That's true. But when you inherit a mess, you've got two options, two directions. It's a T-junction politically, isn't it? You could either improve it somewhat, and look how you struggle, and we'll give you all the points for that, or kind of make it worse. So actually, your starting point when it comes to these stats doesn't really matter, does it? It's what you do with your journey from that starting point. And he's not taking it in a good direction. So before the election, we were straddled with the highest tax burden since World War II.
Yeah.
So what do you do there? Do you make them lower? Or do you make them higher? Do you increase national insurance from the employer's side? Do you ramp up taxes left, right and centre? That's not the way to do it, when already our big complaint was, look how much we're being taxed. Yeah, I know he had the battle with the backbenchers over this, but surely you try and cut the costs, you try and do a little bit of reform to the welfare. That's your only option. And then we'd be loving you. You might even bump into that theoretical positive numbers that no other politician ever goes in. There's another reason why we're desensitized to the figures. They're all negative, aren't they?
They always
give
are.
You these, like, who's the least popular? That's the only way you try and win this. But yeah, I think that's why we're blaming Keir Starmer. Any good idea that was thrown out of the Labour Party has been executed in a bad way. Is it right that millionaire pensioners get winter fuel allowance? No. So solve it in a way that, oh, too late, you've managed to take money away from people who are getting 12 grand. Is it right that you can use a loophole for your tax using a farm? No. Oh, wait a minute, you've managed to ruin things for farmers. Don't do things that are bad if you want to have a good score. Simple.
Yes, Labour have been the victims of the law of unintended consequences, haven't they? And, you know, the well-meaning policies have largely backfired.
Yes, but I think that's too kind of you, and I've never said that about you before.
No, it's not my nature.
Because unintended consequences, but most people talking out loud on radio or TV come up with this idea before it's enacted. If they listen to anyone, they'd be, oh, there's a bit of chatter there about how this has upset some farmers or some pensioners or some people who run pubs. And all of this talk was announced before budgets. Now, Rachel Reeves could have just listened to anyone saying, well, we're a little bit worried about how this is going to impact, or business rates looks like it might be impacting this sector. So it's not like no one had thought of this before they enacted the rules and the unintended consequences then became apparent. If they'd have listened, they could have guessed some of these consequences.
Is there any hope that this is part of the plan, that things are going to get worse before they get better?
No. Why would you do that? I mean, look, I know you've got to do the unpopular things at the start of your term because you've got to start being more popular towards the election again. But come on, I mean, that's a general suggestion, not a challenge.
The biggest problem for Starmer as well, notwithstanding that economic growth has dipped since they came in and they were going to be the party of growth, unemployment has come back up. It's actually going up, which is ironic for the party of working people who aren't in work. Inflation, which is a tax on everyone, especially the poorest, remains sticky, I would argue, thanks to their policies. So I do agree with you that what they've set out to do, they're not achieving, they're going in the other direction. The other big problem, notwithstanding those important real-world consequences of government policy, it's just that Starmer's not that great at politics, is he?
Certainly not at the messaging, which actually maybe in this modern day world, maybe that is politics, or it's 90% of politics, isn't it? The way in which you get it across, I don't want to use the word optics because it's a modern word, and when I was growing up, that's where you get your drinks from.
Yes,
and yet
exactly.
now,
I remember those.
Yeah, now it's this weird thing, people who work in comms and stuff like that, but we know what it means. The way in which you get the message across, it's just absolutely flubbed. So that's the failure, isn't it? If you could sell this to us, or at least help us understand some of this, then maybe we'd agree with you. Well, this is where I sit on this as well. I am persuadable, more than many other people who sit in this chair, to some of the goals of this government. Because, you know, I'm willing to be, I'm a bit, I can lean a certain way, I'm a bit of a softie in those ways. But if the way that you execute it, that you enact it, is a mess, then you lose even me. So I like the idea of a welfare state that is there to catch people, but the only way to do that is have it run properly, where people are assessed, where people aren't trapped in a sickness benefit where you can't even apply for a job, because if you do, then, oh, look at that, you lose all your money. Yeah. That is a ridiculous system, and it's not a right-wing point of view. Everyone on the left should be thinking we need to reform the system so it works, so it doesn't crumble, fail and get replaced by something else.
Most definitely. Well, let's take a listen to a voice note, because I'm asking you this morning, is Starmer the worst Prime Minister in history? This is Ben in Birmingham.
Morning, Mark. Ben from Birmingham. Is Keir Starmer the worst Prime Minister ever? Is that a question that even needs answering? Where would you even begin? OAP's heating allowance, private schools, Chagos Islands, death tax on farmers, free clothes from his aides and free glasses and knickers for his wife, rumours about his house and old cars being set on fire. The list is never ending. The bloke is a disgrace. Oh, that's another one. The prosecuting soldiers from Northern Ireland as a hobby. It's literally, you could spend the whole 4 hours of your show trying to list the disgusting actions he's taken against his people, and you probably still wouldn't have time. Great show.
Wow, listen, first of all, really enjoyed that voice note, Ben, and love the sound effects from the car as well. It came from the heart. That's my question to you this morning. Is Starmer the worst Prime Minister in history? 0344 499 1000. Anna has messaged the show. Good morning, Anna. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. I hope you're having an excellent Saturday. She says Starmer could have gathered the country together and pushed us forward as one. Instead, he was more interested in persecution of the right wing. So look, thank you for that. Grandpa Peter Lynch was in prison for 3.5 years for a placard. He died in his cell. Lucy Connolly was robbed of her freedom for a tweet. The monster Starmer and his party can never be forgiven. What else? Let's have a look. Hev says, good morning, Mark and Steve. Somehow I feel that Starmer won't give up his position at number 10. I don't think he wants to be seen as ousted, so will feel in control by calling a general election. That automation is 100% against this Britain. Listen, thank you for that. Jan in Newcastle. Good morning, Mark and Steve. Love watching you both. But Steve, that shirt you're wearing is moving on the screen and I'm dizzy. Can you sit still for a second?
Oh, sit still. I thought she was going to say take it off.
Well, that would be very good for ratings. It's 6:31. A migrant scandal in Europe. You will not believe this story. That's next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. It is 6:33. Let's look at some front pages. The I weekend. Half of UK voters want Keir Starmer replaced now in worst ever ratings. 51% say Labour should change leader. That includes Labour voters. Folks, it's over, right? The fat lady hasn't just sang. She's in a cab on her way home. The Times newspaper, Epstein invited to Palace. Prince Andrew asked the paedophile to visit a month after his prison release following child sex trafficking charges. 3 million pages of Epstein files revealed, including a former Labour government minister, Peter Mandelson, the architect of New Labour, who procured thousands of pounds from the disgraced paedophile that was pumped into the bank account of his then lover, now husband. The Sun newspaper, 1 year after jail release, Epstein fixed Russian girl for Andrew. Damning headlines, which we'll come to very shortly. But big problems in Europe as well, because an asylum seeker let's have a look at this. Okay, so horror on the subway in Germany as a woman aged 18 is pulled onto the tracks in front of incoming train by a Sudanese stranger aged 25, killing them both instantly in Germany. Meanwhile, huge numbers of migrants were seen queuing on the street in Barcelona to collect paperwork after the socialist government in Spain announced it would grant legal status to around 500,000 undocumented foreign nationals. Steve, your reaction to, well, first of all, that story in Barcelona, do you think that it's appropriate for someone that's entered a country illegally to ever receive nationality, to receive citizenship?
Do you know what, interesting? I suppose you have to say yes to that, because some people will apply for asylum and be granted asylum on genuine grounds, and they may have entered a country illegally. However, if you don't have grounds for asylum, then no. If you're not a genuine refugee, then no. And this is a con, isn't it? This is like one of those films, Now You See Me. This is the greatest Swizz being played. I can't remember, one of the ways it was described in here was nice, but I think it's demographic gerrymandering. It's making sure, so you get 500,000 people who they know politically, there's one of the parties, one side of the political debate that would have you removed from that nation. You grant them, not citizenship, it's regularisation or something they call it, isn't it? But either way, they'd get to vote. And then in the election say, which way are you going to vote? For us, who gave you almost citizenship, or for them, who'd see you leave? And then I wonder where this is going to go. It is a con. And there's a bit in this story, this is the bit that got me. This is why you shouldn't like this system. Under the new rules, you have to show that you don't have a criminal record, and you have to prove that you've lived in the country for 5 months. What? So actually that means you don't have a criminal record in the last 5 months. Rose West hasn't gained a criminal record in the last 5 months. You know what I mean? It's not that difficult.
She's a changed woman, actually.
What is that? You got the latest on that. But do you see my point? It's just you're not a criminal for just around half a year. If you can prove that, you're in.
Yeah, I mean, the changes to Spanish society for 500,000 undocumented people to become Spaniards are significant. The issue you've got is that certainly in this country, the public haven't voted for this rapidly changing society. Now, I don't know about you, but we're a similar vintage, and I grew up in the 80s. I don't remember any concerns about the principle of immigration. And our NHS, for example, has always been diverse, etc. But the rapid change is something that people haven't voted for, and they're angry. Can you understand that?
It is about absolute figures, relative figures, and rate of change. You're absolutely right. Because if you had long enough, this number could be achieved without it affecting society in ways that people
50,000 people a year forever.
That kind of worked, didn't it? Those figures. I mean, with David Cameron saying we'll get it down to the tens of thousands, those numbers, you thought, OK, well, it's a goal. You might not achieve it. You'll be in that rough ballpark. And they weren't. They were in the hundreds of thousands, which, you know, like Carol Vorderman might point out, that's still tens of thousands. It's just a multiple of 10 of tens of thousands, isn't it? That's where they get you on that one. Yeah. But it is the numbers. That's one way of analysing, isn't it? It's just the impact on society. Yeah. There are things like infrastructure. If you've got time to build more schools and more houses, then you don't notice a deficit of schools and houses and doctors and things like that. If you've got time for there to be integration, so you don't have this enclave feel, then I don't think anyone would complain. If you're walking through parts of London and it felt like an integrated society, then that would be... Do you remember the character Bernard Wrighton?
Yes, of course I do, yeah.
The joke of, what a perfect example of an integrated community. It's one of the punchlines. Interesting that's what we thought was the goal back then. That was the right-on point of view, the left-wing point of view, the comedians like, look, let's use our punchline to show how great society is with this multicultural tapestry. That's what we thought we had, a perfect example of an integrated community. And that's the problem now, the lack of integration.
Do politicians need to understand the importance of not just integration but national identity? Because I just wonder whether philosophically we've got it wrong in the last 30 years, that we thought British tolerance involved people from other cultures coming here and just keeping those cultures, and that now, unfortunately, the genie's out of the bottle, and what it should look like is a multi-ethnic society based around British values.
Yeah, I think back in our day...
Because those are two very different things, aren't they?
Yes. Back in our day, the word multiculturalism, we misused it. We actually thought it meant integration. It meant a mixed community. And I slightly disagree with you. This is going to get a bit semantic, but it's not about people not keeping their own culture. Of course you will. 100%. There's like this diaspora effect, isn't it? When people move to a different area, you actually... People tend to become more religious to their native church when they move away from that country. Yeah. You cling on to something that's a bit of your identity.
Look at Little Italy, look at Chinatown.
Yeah.
Correct.
But that you can do both. It's not either or, is it? And it's the either or that's the problem. People saying, no, I refuse to integrate more with the British culture. You could do both. You don't have to eschew British culture just to keep your own. Keep your own, have your identity, talk about all your great traditions, and be part of British society. It felt like that should have been the easy win somehow, and I blame you for this. We've failed to do it.
Yes, it is all my fault. So the issue is the Spaniards announcing legal status to 500,000 undocumented migrants. What message does that send to the third world?
Yes.
Because there are about 3 or 4 billion people who could do with a better life, and they'd get one in Spain, Germany, France and the United Kingdom.
Yes, you can sell the argument, but if they sat and thought about it only for a while, because of the numbers. If you send 2 billion to any country, all of a sudden the standard of living in that country might be impacted somewhat. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The observer effect. You can't turn up to there and be part of that nation without impacting it somewhat. So yeah, I can see they might be receiving the message, yeah, go to Spain and get a better life. But how many million need to turn up before that better life isn't a better life? In fact, if you get 2 billion turn up, all of a sudden you're not in Spain.
And then we have a story of an 18-year-old woman killed in Germany by a Sudanese migrant. Now what's happened there is that this woman is on a train platform, she's waiting for her train. This guy staggers along and he pulls her onto the tracks as a train is incoming. They're both killed. Now, you could say a German national could have done this similarly. Is it a story that he's Sudanese, and is it right that this will no doubt stoke racial tensions in Germany?
I think this one's a difficult one, because it is true to say, yeah, a German national could have done this. You look at the way that a lot of these news stories, it's not like the only story like this that's been around recently, and it tends to not be loads of the native people doing it. Now, whether that's just random chance, whether we analyse the news more because it's someone who's come to that country, and if that hadn't have happened, that crime wouldn't have happened. So in a sense, you have to hate but discount all of the crimes that happen from native-born people, because what could you do? You can't throw someone out of the nation for a crime they've not done yet. But you could have made sure you don't have migration that includes people who might have issues, criminal pasts, cultural issues with women, those kind of things. And we don't know that's going on here. I'm just talking in general. There has been a change, though, isn't it? We used to sit around saying the biggest threat to women, and it still is statistically, is people that they know. But isn't it more terrifying that we're seeing these stories of people they don't know? Horrible as it is that the biggest threat to you is someone you know in your life, but the terrifying spectre, this sword of Damocles of, like, you never know who's going to be someone who then loses it, and it tends to be women, doesn't it? With the videos we've seen from America, the other story about stabbing, women are getting attacked by people who don't know them. We don't know why, but it is worth looking at, and you've got to be able to criticise it.
And you know, this show is all about opinions, and we have people from across the political spectrum contributing to the show, and I've had quite a lot of left-leaning voices on, and I've tried to establish the principle with them that if somebody from overseas who comes here as a migrant, or indeed somebody that enters the country legally through the legal means, if they then harm a British citizen, it's my view that that's an aggravating factor, and my left-leaning guests just won't accept that. So, for example, we've talked about illegal immigrants accommodated in 3- and 4-star hotels in certain communities such as Epping, and they attack a young woman. My argument is that that's an aggravating factor because they shouldn't have been here in the first place if we had strong border control. And my guests have said, no, there are white people that rapes the public. Yeah. You know, there are British people that. But what do you think about the principle that if someone from overseas who shouldn't be here commits a crime, that's an aggravating factor rather than the whataboutery about, well, Brits rape too?
Yeah, the second bit, the Brits rape too, it gets us to the per capita argument. I never thought we'd have to have an argument about a philosophical understanding of a Latin phrase. It's just divide by a number. That's all it is, isn't it? It's a ratio per capita, per number of people, what's your percentage? How do people not understand that? Or maybe they choose to be blind to it. That, of course, in a nation that is over 80% white, over 80% of anything would probably be white. By some normal distribution, that's what you would expect. So to be shocked by that number or to pretend to not understand it is not an argument anyone needs to have. Here's what you should say to them. Let's find that original piece of paper. Those people who say that if you come over here and you commit a crime, then it shouldn't be a factor. Let's get that left-leaning government from Spain who have a rule, and I refer you to my earlier rule. If you've got a criminal record, you don't get the regularisation. So the left-leaning government in Spain agrees with you on that one.
Yeah, and that's the important thing, is that you cannot flatten all of these things out. At 9 o'clock in Dolan's Dispatch, I'll be running a clip from a Channel 5 show hosted by Matthew Albright, who had a caller on from Crowborough, and she said she was worried about her town because 500 undocumented men would be staying nearby at an army training centre. And he said, well, why are you afraid? Because, you know, what's different about these men? You know, there are white men that rape people. And she said, well, I don't know who they are. And he said, well, I live in London. You don't know who millions of people are. That's disingenuous, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, I think, and I can't speak for her, but let's just, you know, walk down this hypothetical world. If there were a hotel that suddenly had how many is it, 5,000?
It's 500 in an army training centre.
So if all of a sudden 500 English white men, single, just turned up, she might be a bit worried about how that would impact the vibe as well. So I don't think she's being racist. I think if that's the accusation, which is probably what he was steering at.
But also, I think there is a difference between 500 Brits, okay, it doesn't matter what their ethnicity is, but just born in this country, British people, 500 British men accommodated in a disused army barracks is not the same as 500 men who have crossed the channel from far-flung corners of the world. I think there is a difference. Would you agree?
Well, yes, there is an impact of growing up in this country, isn't it?
Yeah,
or any country like ours. Or there's an impact from growing up in a country. That's a statement you're allowed to say, surely.
Oh, there is. And there is a shared sort of cultural attitude towards women, for example.
Yes. And look, I don't think it's going beyond the realms of polite conversation to say, if you've grown up in a nation that has a very tolerant attitude towards women, or you've grown up in one where you like to see them thoroughly covered up, and I believe not allowed near windows is one of them.
Is that right?
Yeah. So if you grew up in those two countries, you will have a different opinion. We are a product of our nature and nurture, aren't we? You are a product of your environment. So if you've grown up like that, maybe you think slightly less of women. Again, throwing out these small statements, which I don't think you can disagree with, which if you add that up to a whole hotel full of them, a whole barracks full of them, yeah, I suppose you would have a different vibe.
But also, anybody that's born in this country has, by osmosis, soaked up some of the values and the culture of the place just by being born here. But it's not just that, is it? These undocumented individuals, it's not to demonise them to suggest they're a threat. Given we don't know who they are, their background or where they've come from, that provably does make them a threat. It's not because of the colour of their skin, it's the undocumented bit.
Yes, and I suppose the word threat is more like a statistical statement, isn't it? It's like we don't know. We're talking about chance, because you're not, I'm presuming, you're not saying every individual one is a threat. Like every person is a robber.
They're not.
And that, yeah,
and they can't be.
But the fact that you don't know, so when you have a larger group, you don't know what exists within that larger group.
It might be a little bit like you're away on business and your missus is at home and there's a guy in the house. And the difference is that one guy is a Corgi registered gas engineer, and the other guy is some lad called Jim. And that's all we know about him. We don't know if he's Corgi. He was in a car park, and he's I'm pretty good with boilers. And
and so I took him round to meet the missus. In many ways, I'm the bad guy in this story.
Exactly. It's not the milkman, because I know that's a sensitive issue for you, and I'm glad that as a couple you've moved on from that drama. Yeah. But semi-skimmed. It's not my most elegant metaphor, but you take my point.
Yes, yeah.
It's like we're allowed to judge people based upon how much we know about them.
Yes. I was going to say familiarity. You're right, maybe it is just pure data, it's info, isn't it?
I mean, is that not why the customs officers check passports, at Stansted and Heathrow and Manchester Airport and Glasgow?
Yes, I think that's
or
what they should.
Is it far right to check passports now when you come in?
That's interesting, isn't it? I was going to say all of these things where you say them as individual statements. This is what I try and do, like a statement that you can't disagree with, and then the next one. But if you add it all up, it gets branded as far right, doesn't it?
It most definitely does. Is Sir Keir Starmer the worst Prime Minister in history? I've got a full switchboard. Your calls next.
Netflix's Bridgerton. They've taken a character who struggled with infertility in the books, and they've made her a lesbian. Now, of course, if you're a lesbian, you cannot have a child with another woman. That's how biology works. You know, the book, when they discuss the impact of her struggling with fertility, she was married to a man, and it was really, really quite emotionally damaging. And it's a really lovely storyline about the struggle of infertility and what that looks like. And then they took that and made her a lesbian.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
500,000 migrants, illegal immigrants, are to receive citizenship in Spain under the socialist government. Could that happen here under a left-wing regime? Let's get a voice note from Sally.
Good morning, Mark. Regarding these 500,000 now legal migrants in Spain, will they now be able to have free movement in Europe? Well, let's just wait for them to all arrive here in Britain. Good show.
Sally, you're a genius. You raise such a good point that if other European countries have an open borders policy, then that affects anyone in the Euro bloc because of Schengen, because of free movement. So if Spain are stupid and self-destructive enough and woke enough to grant citizenship to 500,000 undocumented people who, as Steve said, are not all going to be criminals. Some of them will want to make a better life, and we would be doing the same. But if they're undocumented, a portion will be a threat to that society. Well, they can be a threat not just to Spain, they can then go next door to France, Italy, Germany. But I've got great news for you on that regarding your voice note. By the way, sorry, so what was the name of my the voice note? Sammy, I've got great news for you. Sally, let me tell you that we don't have that problem, because this is the United Kingdom and we voted to leave the European Union in 2016. So there is no free movement into the UK. So yes, it's societal suicide on the part of the European Union, but we, Brexit Britain, are insulated from that. And I say that as someone that voted Remain. Biggest mistake of my life. I think Brexit's been a triumph. We'll get to that on another show, and I'm not even joking. Right, 6:53. Let's do the Green Party now, shall we? And this is very interesting. The Green Party's candidates in this forthcoming Gorton and Denton by-election in Manchester has called for prostitution to be decriminalised and suggested that she's open to abolishing the police. Stephen Allen.
That wraps up at the end, doesn't it?
And it does. Are these people dangerous?
I don't know. I mean, the first part, I was thinking, well, it kind of already is a bit, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, it's not really a story for me.
No,
that one.
Yeah, it comes up with an idea that, and this is based on you get one seat. It's not as if the Greens will then have the power to push this through Parliament and it will make a difference. So, in a sense, this will never happen. Good luck. Of course, you have to tell us what you're into, but it's not going to happen. But it is fascinating that it tells you the kind of people that they think will be voting for them, I suppose.
Absolutely right.
Not the first bit. Again, I don't even understand the rules on prostitution. Thankfully, my career hasn't dipped that low yet, but it's an option. I'm not taking it off the table, but there's something like if you don't run a brothel, you're absolutely fine. I ain't going to run a brothel, am I? I do not have the organisational skills.
Yeah, I would say you would make a lovely madame.
Why, thank you.
Yeah, you would. You got great cheekbones, and you would run the place with an absolute iron fist.
Yeah,
which you pay extra for that.
That was my username once. But anyway, we're back to this. The police bit. This is like what was happening in America a while ago. Abolish the police. Wait a minute. I thought we were through all that weird stuff of defund the police, which The argument, again, look, good argument. Funding's going in the wrong place. You don't want to have your police spending all of their time acting as an ambulance service for people in mental health crises, because that's not what the police is meant to be. They're the ones who turn up for crimes. So a couple of years ago, they were driving around people with mental health issues. That should be like in the health sector. A couple of years later, they're spending a lot of time looking at tweets and WhatsApp groups. And finally, you start to think we're making some sense here.
Yeah.
We're getting the police looking at crime things. And again, when we were growing up, the 80s, you didn't think you'd have to argue for having police focusing on crimes. That was a given.
Correct.
And it looks like they're still pushing against this. It will never amount to anything, but why are they still pushing against it?
It's true, isn't it? The fundamentals that we all thought were settled issues are now being questioned, such as, you know, what defines a biological human being, or man or a woman, whether borders should exist or not, whether there should be policing. Is it a concern for you, as somebody that is sympathetic to progressive policies, that the Green Party look to be occupying more of that ground on the left of politics?
I'm not sure whether it's good to like siphon off the people who are just going too far, who are loony, to use the phrase that we used to use, because that might be good. You can separate out, you might make the Labour Party more centrist and have fewer of the people who become backbenchers who prevent things like welfare reform. There could be a good settling out system. Very much like Kemi is saying is happening with the Conservatives. She likes the people they're losing, and maybe Labour should like the people you'd lose to your party or the Greens. And the Greens, it's such a shame. Again, back when we were growing up, the Greens had this thing they were talking about. I don't know if you've heard of it. The environment. They've not mentioned that in a while.
No,
I mean, unless there's a lot of global warming coming off prostitutes, I don't know why they're talking about it.
Well, I totally agree. I don't know if you disagree with me, but it's my view that in recent years, the left have abandoned the working class, with the Labour Party being very much a sort of North London intelligentsia, chattering classes project. The feminists have abandoned women by ignoring the primacy of biological sex. And the environmentalists have abandoned pollution.
Yeah.
When was the last time you heard a Green Party candidate talking about plastic in the ocean or polluted air?
No, they don't at all, do they?
What is it, Gaza? And
the modern economic
redistribution
theory.
of wealth.
Yeah, the printing money, which they've rebranded as modern economic theory, which is just a made-up phrase. But yeah, and it doesn't work. We've been through quantitative easing, so we're living through the inflation of knowing what it's like, and yet still they're blind to the reality of their own eyes. Go, no, we'll fix it. We'll just make some money. We're not even the place that's got the pinned currency, but let's just churn out some of that. Apparently, so you're right. They've not. If anything, our money's made of plastic these days. They want more of it.
Well, that's a very, very good point, and nicely put. Some people are trying to suggest that, given the fragmentation of politics, that the Green Party are simply the Reform UK of the left. But is that really true? Is that an equivalence that you can make? Because aren't Reform just robust Conservatives? And is the Green Party rather separate from, like, let's say, the Labour Party project?
No, I can see the similarity, because both of them are accused by the opposite side of being populist. And in a sense, they are. They're definitely. Populism identifies the right problems and comes up with solutions that you might not like, and that's where your debate is. So on this one, because if you are charismatic, and to the people of the left, Zach is charismatic, to the people of the right, Nigel is charismatic. However, to the opposite sides, both of them think the other one's repugnant. So I think that there is some similarity there. The interesting thing is this schism. For a while, the right was just being split down, cleft in twain, if you will.
Yeah.
But it looks like the left's going. This is why this election up in Denton and Gorton and Denton is going to be fascinating. The only way Labour are going to lose it is by the splitting of the left. Everyone's talking about how well Reform's doing in polls up there, but demographically, it's called, Gorton and Denton, but I was reading this thing where they look at the actual demographic of the area. A lot of it is some wards lower than, slightly to the south, neither Gorton nor Denton. They've got students living there. You look at that demographic, they ain't going to be Reform voters. So you split these people down the middle, you split the left down the middle, and that's the only way Reform will win. So the Greens might win it for Reform.
Dean, do we have time for Hannah Spencer's announcement? Yeah, let's slam it out. Let's take a listen. This is the Green Party candidate.
Of Parliament. Leaky roofs, crumbling walls. I think they need a plumber and a plasterer, and we happen to have one woman who can do both. It is my absolute privilege, it's always an honour, to introduce candidates to the stage. But this for me isn't just a candidate. This is a close friend. This is a special person who I know is going to represent us amazingly on the national stage. Please welcome to the stage Manchester's first Green MP, or soon to be, Hannah Spencer.
Fantastic. This is somebody accused of anti-Semitism, doesn't know what a woman is, suggests that the Supreme Court biological sex ruling is possibly illegal and wants to defund the police. Be afraid, be very afraid. Is Keir Starmer the worst Prime Minister in history? Front pages, next.
Hello from Crowborough, where the local residents are enraged with what has happened to their community merely overnight when just 27 single male asylum seeker illegal migrants were bussed into their military training camp. Behind me are local residents, people from all over the country. Shabana Mahmood has said that this is an effective way of getting rid of those expensive, flashy asylum hotels. But unfortunately, these people are still placed within the community.
The whole town is very afraid because these are unvetted men from countries that are, the government warned us not to go to.
I've got an 18-year-old daughter and she gets the bus opposite camp.
Do you feel safe for her?
No, so that will have to stop. We'll either have to wait with her or take her to wherever she needs to go.
The reason I'm here today is because I live in Crowborough and my family, I've got a wife and children, and just worried about, my wife walking to work and my sons, walking about. Anything can happen, can't it? That nowadays, Nigel, what's going on, what's happening in this country. So I'm just concerned and frightened,
There was support from other towns, other communities, because of course Shabana Mahmood has threatened other communities, and she said they're going to open site after site after site. Well, I would hope that if she's going to try and do that, she learns some lessons about the way she's done it in Crowborough, because this is not finished. We are not finished objecting to this plan.
Grover says no! Grover says no! Grover says no!
We would urge her to reconsider, and whatever she does, she needs to talk to the people that she's imposing these things on.
You had a direct line to Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood. What would you say to them?
Look after your most vulnerable first. It's your priority to look after your vulnerable.
If they're bringing illegal immigrants into a camp in the dead of night, why are they doing that? They're doing that because it's disingenuous, it's dishonest, it's covert, and they're trying to keep the reality away from the local community of what they're actually doing to us. We've now got to the end of the entrance to the camp, we've got cameras, we've got police drones. It's like a cloud that's come over this community.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past 7. Happy Saturday, one and all. Your weekend starts here. This is Talk Breakfast and a big 3 hours to come. Breaking this morning, Starmer on the brink as his poll rating slips to -49, with a clear majority of the public, including Labour voters, now wanting him out. So could MPs move to unseat him before the May elections? So he is provably and statistically the least popular Prime Minister since records began. Is he the worst Prime Minister in history too? My phone number is 0344 499 1000. I'm delighted to say that Matthew is taking your calls today. So pick up the phone, give Matthew a call and say, hey Matthew, I want to go on Talk Breakfast and I'm going to tell you why I think Keir Starmer is the worst Prime Minister in history. If you want to defend him as well, it's all about opinions. My number is 0344 499 1000. If he's the worst Prime Minister in history, tell me why. What's he done that has particularly upset you? A PM on the brink will bring you the latest on a Prime Minister that may have just weeks to survive in the top job. Meanwhile, a fresh Labour scandal following the release of 3 million pages of the Epstein files. It's been revealed that former Labour business secretary and the architect of Tony Blair's political revolution, Lord Peter Mandelson, encouraged the disgraced ex-paedophile Jeffrey Epstein to pump thousands of pounds into the bank account of his then lover, now husband. Peter Mandelson, former Labour government minister in the cabinet with a seat at the table, accepting thousands of pounds a month into the bank account of his then lover. Can you imagine if it was a former Conservative politician or a current Reform UK politician? You'd never hear the end of it. But a wall of silence from the media today. And a fresh headache for King Charles as his brother Andrew is once again embroiled in the Epstein scandal, with the financier having fixed up a lunch with a beautiful young Russian woman, with an excited Andrew saying he can't wait, give her my number. So what can King Charles do about his problematic brother and the bad headlines that just won't go away? My priority for the next 3 hours is to get your opinions on the national radio and television airwaves. So book your place on the show. Is Keir Starmer the worst Prime Minister in history? 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk with your message to 87222. Leave us a voice note, and as the saying goes, let's talk. I'll be dealing with a woke Channel 5 presenter in a very special Dolan's Dispatch at 9 a.m. It might get me cancelled. Good. Front pages. Daily Mirror, the Epstein files. Trump hit by underage sex claim. Donald Trump performed a sex act with a girl aged 13 or 14, according to claims released as part of the Epstein files. Documents released yesterday say the alleged incident, reported to the FBI, took place 35 years ago. The Department of Justice said the claims are unfounded and false. The Guardian newspaper, Epstein sent money to Mandelson's husband. Daily Star, Bill Gates caught a sexually transmitted disease from Epstein sex girls. The Microsoft billionaire Bill Gates caught a sexually transmitted disease from Russian girls, according to outrageous new claims in the Jeffrey Epstein files, with wild allegations that Bill Gates actually begged Jeffrey Epstein for access to antibiotics so he could be treated for this STD, and he suggested that he would like to secretly give those antibiotics to his then wife Melinda as well, without her knowing. It is a wild story. Daily Express, nearly 10 years on, and we are still waiting. So today, the paper that led the call to leave the EU says, now you must give Britain a proper Brexit. Nigel Farage, Kemi Badenoch and Boris Johnson back the Express's new campaign to stop the betrayal. Sun newspaper, 1 year after jail release, Epstein fixed Russian girl for Prince Andrew. The Times, Epstein invited to the palace following his conviction for child sex trafficking. And the Weekend, half of UK voters want Keir Starmer replaced now, in worst ever ratings. 7:08, with me live in the studio, one of the country's finest comedians, broadcaster and political commentator, Steve N. Allen. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
Starmer, he's got weeks, not months now, hasn't he?
I don't know, because it's going to require either him saying it's time to go back to the nation, right? If he's not going to step down. He's been wanting this for ages. He also probably doesn't read the room. He doesn't seem to be the most queued up on people's responses. And the last time you actually had someone go to the nation, it was Theresa May, wasn't it? Who was so sure she was going to do this to make strong and stable, give her more strength. He's not going to be thinking, I'll go to the nation because they're absolutely loving me right now. So I don't think he'll call an election. I don't think he'll step down. Then in the zone of requiring 80 Labour MPs to say, come on, mate, you've had your time. And then who else are they going to be backing? I'm not sure we're ever going to pull that trigger.
Well, I think there's a chance that they will act after the by-election, which they're most likely going to lose, because I think they could move pre-May elections. Otherwise, they lose control of the country locally. This might be a case of committing suicide for the fear of death. Matthew is in Washington. He's called Warrington. Matthew, sorry, Matthew, I'm consumed with the man flu, and it hasn't just given me a gravelly voice, it's affected my brain as well. I'm going to let you do all the talking. Good morning.
Hey.
Matthew, lovely to have you on the programme, and I'm delighted that you've called this show. And I want to ask you, is Starmer the worst Prime Minister in history, Matt?
I would say he's not just the worst Prime Minister, but the whole Labour Party is the worst government we've ever had in our lifetime. It's not just Starmer that's poor, it's his front bench. We've had a Home Secretary saying that migrants are more important than British citizens. He's had to sack them all for corruption and non-payment of tax. He's done more U-turns than Stig on Top Gear. He's not done anything right. You know, I bet even Breakfast Club's not really happening. He reckons there's been 4 million appointments on the NHS. There's been 4 million appointments moved for another 4 million, and he's cut the books with skint. He's giving all our sovereignty away. He's gone to China, and he'd have come back more with duty free than what he went over there for, because he's not achieved anything. He's upset our biggest ally, America. He wants us to sneak us back into Europe. He's not done anything on his manifesto. He's just done everything that he wanted to do. You know, he got rid of the jury service. Where do we stop? I've spoken to people, and not one of us have actually said has this government done anything good. We're being taxed to death. We're full of debt. It's going to take us years and years to get out of it. And he'll go off into the distance with a nice little cushy job in the European Union and Strasbourg, somewhere prosecuting. Another one, I'm a veteran. He's prosecuting the troops. I always spent 2 years in Northern Ireland. Is he going to come and get me for something that I did in 1992? He's not done anything about the rape gangs. He's not done anything about the 2 little boys in my hometown that got killed by the RA in Warrington, in Bridge Street, outside McDonald's. He's a terrible, terrible man. And I can't abide him. He makes my skin crawl. The way he talks, well, today we're in China. And every time he comes in the centre, he has to raise it up, China. And we say, it's not the British. He's not done anything for the British people. He's a disgrace. And I just want this 3 years to get out of the way so we can vote the man out. And Labour will never, ever be in power again, not in our lifetime. Right? Can you see it, Mark?
No, I agree with everything you've said, Matthew. What a rap sheet you've delivered there off the top of your head. So articulate and so true. And you mentioned the taxes, so they've absolutely destroyed the economy. They've killed growth. Unemployment is back, which is ironic, Matthew, from the party of working people who it turns out aren't in work. But it goes beyond the economy, doesn't it? It's the attack on the fabric of this country, the institutions, the traditions, our culture. So, for example, the jury trials, like you said, which have been around for 900 years, the prosecution of soldiers, including Northern Ireland now, thanks to this incoming Prime Minister. You've also got the issue of pubs closing down every day, which are part of our society, part of our culture. The farmers, the list goes on, Matthew. Would a change of Prime Minister help?
No, because normally when John Major was, because it feels very similar to when John Major was ousted out and Blair came in and they were all big. There was always someone that had a personality in the background where, you know, there's no personalities, there's no one in there that's going to make it any different because they've all got the same agenda and they're all being pulled, the strings being pulled by Blair and the unions. Even the unions are turning on them now because, you know, we got Net Zero, we got Miliband. Net Zero is the biggest scandal, it's the biggest hoodwink that we ever had. I can remember Blair telling everyone that diesel was the cleanest fuel and that when we had the lorry strikes that he was going to go and transport everything by train because diesel was the cleanest energy. You know,
well, Matthew, you're so right, and we did that. The diesel thing was because of the EU, and it was to lower carbon emissions. And what we did instead, Matthew, is poison the air for our youngsters because, of course, the emissions from diesel engines are far more harmful to human health than petrol.
Yeah, but they've not changed anything. When we had the ozone layer in the 80s, they had a big hole, and they said plant more trees. Just plant some more trees then. We've got loads of, and instead of putting solar panels in all these places, put trees in there. Make some woodlands so people can go out and enjoy themselves, not go into the countryside blighted by wind turbines and solar panels that we can't even store the energy.
Matthew, stay with me, because I want a reaction from Steve N. Allen. What do you make of Matthew's rap sheet against this government?
Do you know, it's interesting, Matthew's talking about planting trees, because, of course, the last person running to be Prime Minister who was in favour of that was Jeremy Corbyn. So I never thought Matthew would be a Jeremy Corbyn fan. I'm going to get sued by Matthew now. No, he's right. I think the problem is Labour Party just weren't in good nick. They didn't win the last election because they were so match fit and ready to win an election. Labour won the last election because of how everyone else failed it. Especially the Tories, right? They were in such bad nick that they were going to fail whatever. And this is what I've said about the Labour Party. They shouldn't have promised half the things they promised. They didn't need to. They could have sat round and just won by watching everyone else collapse before the finish line. But it does mean this Labour Party, this Labour government is not the best shape it could have been in. Its backbenchers don't have the right kind of sense of moving forward, sense of making this nation better, which is why any actual reform is going to be hamstrung as soon as it comes out of anyone's mouth. So, yeah, I don't think there is a change of... Matthew's definitely right on that. A change of leadership won't make a difference. A lot of the other potential candidates for it, if anything, would be worse. They're just not in leadership state.
Matthew, we've likely got 3 more years of this administration. What are your feelings about what's going to happen?
I think we'll be skint, but I do think there'll be an election before then. I think because he's obviously going to raise more taxes, because obviously the benefits are going to keep going up and the NHS is going to keep failing. I think we'll get the plug pulled on us by the banks, the world banking, and we'll be claimed as bankrupts, and it'll force it. And
I think you're right.
And I think we'll go into a bit of like no man's land, where there'll be constant bickering with the Labour Party, where nothing will get done now. It'd be like we've got a hung parliament with just a Labour infighting.
Well, I'm really worried about that, and I think you're right, Matthew. I think there could be an economic crash, and unfortunately, Matthew, that would allow the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, to have an emergency budget, which would no doubt be socialism on acid.
Oh, so it's Rachel with an abacus, she frightens me.
Abacus Rachel.
She should stick to playing chess. I bet she's not very good at that neither.
No, I don't think she can play Scrabble, let alone chess.
She might be the first female exchequer, which is all nice and dandy, but she's not a very good one. But there's no one there else to do the job. There's not that Labour Party. There's no one been out there and got their hands dirty. They've not been on a building site. They've not worked in a factory. They've not drove a HGV. They've not laid tarmac. They've not been anywhere. They've not been in business. They've not been a CEO of a big. They're all career politicians with a view that's been poisoned over the last wokery from the last 30 years of the Labour professors. We've got woke judges. We've got woke police commissioners. The whole country's in a mess. All our services, our military, our NHS, they're all woke. The only people in this country do all right is if you're a migrant, you've got 5 kids, or you're transgender. If you're a working person, no matter what colour your skin is or what your religion is, you're going to get screwed, and they don't care. They're just going to go for you. I cashed all my pensions in this year because I knew they were going to get it. I've cashed them in at 55 and spent it all on my house, and I paid £20,000. I had £70,000 in pension. I paid over £20,000 in tax on it.
Just to get that money out, I think that's a smart move, Matthew. And what about the future? I mean, do you think that anyone can save this country, or is the damage done now? Or is it gone?
I think we need to have a bit of patience. I'll hold my hands up. I'm a massive Farage fan. I'm a massive Reform fan. I think they're doing everything the right way. I think they're building. I think they're looking at what Trump's done. They're not just a one-man band anymore. They're putting right people in. But it's not a 5-year plan. It's going to take a good few years of getting it. I just want Reform to get some meat on the bones with their other policies like the economy, the health service, the education service, the military. Not just about, well, we'll stop the boats. I agree. We will stop the boats. We will stop the boats. Well, let's see a proper political party out there who's there for the British person. Not the Englishman, not the white middle, but the British person who has a British passport, who believes in their own religion, who believes in the union. I'm a unionist. I believe in the Commonwealth. I'm a royalist. I'm an ex-Welsh Guardsman. So, I've stood outside and I've seen all the royal family, and a lot of people from ethnic backgrounds admire our customs. And we need to bring that back. Obviously, accept other people's customs, but we're a Christian nation, and we have our own customs, and it's been whitewashed, it's been watered down. We're not allowed to do anything. We're being watched, and the whole thing stinks. And I I'm just beside myself. Like, every day you wake up and there's something else that Starmer and this Labour government have done that is just making us feel sick and rotten to the bone. They've not done one thing good. Not one, you just get, breakfast clubs. Well, most people get up and sort the kids out properly and put them in clean clothes and walk them to school.
Correct.
You don't need to drop them off at 7:30 in the morning for a piece of toast in a canteen, which the schools have to pay for themselves. Most people go out and work. The people who are using breakfast clubs are going back home and sitting watching morning TV, smoking weed. I'm a delivery driver. I've been doing this since COVID. And honestly, the number of kids that don't go to school, are not in school, and that you can smell weed, and the parents in pyjamas, it's shocking. Stop the benefits, make them go out and work. All these people getting £30,000 in benefits, tax the benefits, then they'll want to go out and work, because it pays, doesn't it? If you're getting £32,000 in benefits for your 3 kids and you're sat at home and getting your rent paid for, your council tax your benefits, so you're only getting 27. So feel our pain, those people who are out there working every day.
Matthew, I didn't interrupt you because what you've had to say is so important, and I know that you speak for the vast majority of my viewers and listeners. Your verdict on this government is spot on. You can see it. Those that govern us cannot. And Matthew, keep the faith, because change is coming. Like you said, we've got to be patient, and absolutely what you've said, any future administration, if it's Reform UK or whoever, they need a costed, practical plan for government, because we need change. We need an economic, political, cultural and societal revolution. Matthew, please call me again soon. A fantastic, fantastic contribution.
Great show, mate. Love listening to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Matthew. And the big thing I'd say to Matthew as well is thank you for your service to this country in the military. And we are not worthy of soldiers. The truth is, Steve, you and I both are stand-up comedians as well as broadcasters, and you'll have done gigs where you're on someone on the front row. What do you do? It's like, I'm in the army or I'm ex-military, and that's the point where I don't have any jokes anymore, because we're like, well, you've basically put your life on the line for our freedoms, for our values, and the territorial boundaries of the country. So I tend to just go, you're a legend. Give them a round of applause.
Oh yeah.
It's something very special about people that have served in the military.
Oh, it's humbling as well to realise, like, what we do is pointless. When society crumbles, you don't need stand-up comedians. But I did a gig in Kingston once. It was an army gig. It was some celebration. They had booked in some stand-up comedy. And afterwards, this guy comes up to me, and he had a little dent in the side of his head. And he said, I couldn't do what you do, mate. So brave. I went, right, what did you do, by the way? It was, bomb disposal. Don't worry about it. You'd never have to worry about stand-up.
It's over. What do you make of what Matthew had to say there? It was a very impassioned call, wasn't it?
The slight bad news is he's right. Any future government trying to change things will need time, but don't expect miracles. I think this nation is poorer than we all think it is. We've borrowed more. We've lived like we are richer than we are for so long now. It is ingrained. It's in the very core of this nation that to correct things, we're going to feel a bit poorer. And I understand why every government thinks, well, we won't do it next, we'll leave it. Even I'm getting to the age where I think, do you know what, maybe do it in 50 years and I won't notice.
Yes, the national debt, the parlous state of the nation's finances, our viability economically is a bit like a game of pass the parcel, isn't it?
Yeah.
And at some point, an administration, Labour, Tory, Lib Dem, Reform, will find that the parcel's no longer got any wrapping on it. And that's the moment. That's the moment when it all falls over, isn't it?
Yeah. And Matthew's right. This could be when we no longer get to borrow. That we're surfing on that, and as soon as we no longer get to fund this mess through borrowing, we're in trouble.
Steve, it was a thrill to have you in the studio, and please come back soon. Very entertaining, and lots of truth bombs as well. Broadcaster, comedian, and have you got any projects to sell to us?
Nah, I try and flog stuff on eBay. No, I do. I'm gigging. I'm doing YouTube-y stuff. Track me down on social media.
How can people find you on YouTube?
In general, at Mr. Stephen Allen is my username on everything.
There you go. Well, nice job. We'll catch up with you very soon. Next up, a fresh headache for the King. Don't go anywhere.
Pence did say, no, the rights of the asylum seekers are above the rights of the British people.
Shabana Mahmood is going onto these media channels and saying that she's been, engaging with communities, engaging with police. She's engaged with no one.
The latest is that Brooklyn could be set to sign a 7-figure book deal, and it's the same publisher as Prince Harry's Spare. That makes me shudder.
And Mel B wasn't
we
there.
are...
Scary wasn't there, so I'm going to step in. I'm here, I'm ready for it. Nigel, I'm sorry, I'm joining the Spice Girls.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A devastating headline on the front of the Sun newspaper today. 1 year after Epstein's jail release, he fixed a Russian girl for Prince Andrew. Jeffrey Epstein, of course, the late disgraced paedophile financier, arranged for and I quote, beautiful, trustworthy 26-year-old Russian woman to meet Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, of course, previously Prince Andrew. Shock files released last night's show. The paedophile financier emailed Andrew in 2010, a year after his release from jail for soliciting prostitution from a minor. Andrew replied to the email, said he would be delighted to see this young woman and asked, will she be bringing a message from you? And has she got my number? Let's get reaction from Talk's royal correspondent, Rupert Bell. Rupert, I know that you're limited on time, and I'm very glad you've joined us for this breaking news, this developing story. A new low for Andrew.
Yes, but I wonder if there's a feeling of, well, here we go again, the sort of shrugging of shoulders of yet more revelations about Andrew's links with Jeffrey Epstein, because we know a lot already, but it does seem we've got, every time something comes out and saying, well, okay, here, I'm not saying it's right at all, but you beggars believe that Andrew could even get himself into this situation, which he, of course, firmly denies that he's done anything wrong. And so I look at it and go, it's appalling. And then it questions invitations to Buckingham Palace shortly after he was released to celebrate, or I think Sarah Ferguson wrote to him, so that they could celebrate Andrew's 50th birthday in 2011, I think it is. So, it really is Andrew, in terms of Andrew, you just feel, Mark, as if he's the one that is always out there in the front of these Epstein files. Yes, there's allegations around Bill Gates. There's allegations around Peter Mandelson's husband taking a loan and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But it's always Andrews that do seem to be the one that most focused on, whether in this country and in America. So at times you feel he is the low-hanging fruit, but he's unfortunately put himself in this position to be the center of attention once again with the release of this enormous quantity of files, pictures, videos that has come out in the last 24 hours in America.
Most definitely, and I do suspect he's the fall guy, given the fact that Bill Clinton pretty much lived on that private jet. The Lolita Express was effectively a bus service for Bill Clinton, and serious allegations around Bill Gates, a suggestion that he got a sexually transmitted disease from a young Russian woman, or several young women, and that he sought to procure antibiotics for himself and to secretly administer to his wife Melinda. This is wild stuff.
It is, but I think the whole Epstein saga is wild, distasteful, and that's why there's a sort of fascination in it. It is causing the American governments, and particularly President Trump, some difficulty, although they were at pains yesterday to say that there's nothing to suggest that President Trump has done anything wrong. But as I say, when you come back to Andrew, you just think with that News 9 interview, every time something like Epstein's new files come out, it picks further holes in that particular interview, which, you know, the stupidity of his behavior to do that. And you just go, here we go again. More evidence that what he was saying in that interview was not true, it would seem. Although, as I say, and everyone, and he's at pains to explain, he has never done anything wrong. But he's now off to exile in Norfolk as persona non grata with not only his family, but also the British public at large.
Rupert, we always love having you on the show, and thank you so much for sparing time. You've got a busy day ahead of you. Thank you for your response to that story. Rupert Bell Talks royal correspondent. We'll follow that up very shortly, 7:30 on Talk Breakfast. Keir Starmer now minus 49 in the polls. A majority of Brits that support all political parties want him out. It could be that he'll be gone in weeks, not months. Labour MPs could well move before the May elections. He's the least popular Prime Minister in history. Is he the worst? Georgina's in London. Good morning, Georgina.
Good morning, Mark. Lovely to speak to you.
You too.
Yes, he is the worst. He is a traitor and a global embarrassment to this country. The man has sold us out to China, for goodness sake. What kind of Prime Minister would do that when they are holding political prisoners? British prisoner, Jimmy Lai being the political prisoner, and also, you know, Keir Starmer called himself a humanitarian. What kind of humanitarian would deal with a man like Xi Jinping, for goodness sake? You know, the man is an absolute monster. By doing what he's done, he's shown every person in our country that he's no patriot. He's no lover of our country, Mark, or our culture or our flag. He's a globalist, a socialist, a communist. He puts the well-being of foreign nationals before the well-being of every man, woman and child in our country. He stands by whilst our Jewish community is persecuted. He has pursued our veterans and dragged them through courts, high courts, time and time again. He's worked free of charge, and you only do this when you love your job. What kind of man would do that, knowing that these veterans were fighting under orders for the Queen and country? You know, he called himself a humanitarian. What kind of humanitarian turns a blind eye whilst children in our country are assaulted, molested, or worse? Whilst our farmers commit suicide because of his policies, whilst people are being jailed because he doesn't agree with their opinion. This is not being a humanitarian. He's a dictator, a weak man who hides behind the rules of the ECHR so he doesn't have to take responsibility or accountability for his actions. He's selling us out to the communist regime of China, for goodness sake. He's leaving our jugular exposed to the enemy, you know, when our defences are at their weakest, Mark. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's allowing the erosion of our country, our culture, our heritage, our flag, whilst trying to break the spirit and crush the patriotic pride of every man, woman and child in our nation. He and his government are the biggest danger to our country because, unlike the veterans who fought for our country and lost both life and limb, and those who dare raise our flag to show their pride in our great country, he only wants to dismantle it piece by piece and take enjoyment whilst he does it. He's not my Prime Minister. He's a traitor and an embarrassment.
Well, that's a damning assessment, Georgina, and you mentioned that he's impacting the culture of this country, erasing the culture and the heritage of this country. You're right, and I would add to that the institutions of this country, for example, our justice system and the right to a jury trial, erasing our border. Given the fact that he scrapped the Rwanda plan, illegal crossings have exploded since he became Prime Minister. And of course, he's destroyed our economy with the old enemy of unemployment making a return. Here's a question for you, Georgina. Is this incompetence or by design?
Well, I think it's by design. I think he wants to bring his country to his knees, and he has succeeded. And you said about our judicial system, you've got men who are standing up for the rights of the democratic rights of our country, and they're standing up and they're saying that their women and children are in danger because they have a voice, and they're being imprisoned for it, whilst people who are raping little girls are being given suspended sentences. Our judicial system is corrupt, totally corrupt. What kind of judicial system would do that? We need a whole new revamp. We need a restart with everything, with the judicial system, with the civil service, with the government, the total government we have at the moment, the Labour government. It needs getting rid of. You know, when we go back to 1997, Tony Blair abolished the treason, the Death for Treason Act. He abolished that. And why did he abolish that, Mark? Death for treason. He abolished it because every government thereafter was treacherous to this country, and it's got to be stopped. You either love this country or you get out. It's as simple as that. If you don't love our culture, you don't love our flag, you don't love everything that the British people stand for, then you are not welcome in this country. I'm totally sick of it. Honestly, I'm shaking with temper.
Georgina, my heart goes out to you. You speak for so many of my viewers and listeners who are in a very dark place at the moment about what's happening to the country and how we're being led. But we know that the tunnel is at its darkest before you get out of it. And I promise you change is coming. And you're so right about the complete overhaul we need of our public institutions, of our economy, of our culture, of our society. It's not change. Every politician promises change. This is a revolution that we need, and I think it's going to be a figure like Farage, a disruptive figure who has a plan for government, and I think he needs two things. If it's him, he needs a strong majority and he needs 10 years. Change is coming, folks. Bring popcorn. Georgina, keep the faith. We hear you and we share your pain. This is Talk Breakfast. More to come, 7:37.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast, and I'm delighted to say at 7:38 I'm joined now by former top retired cop Mike Neville. And Mike, top of the morning to you.
Good morning, Mark.
I don't know if you caught that call there from Georgina in London. I spoke earlier to Matthew as well. So many of my viewers and listeners are in a very dark place about the direction of this country.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mark. I mean, I think people just can see right through Keir Starmer, a man who used it in free time and even didn't get paid for it to prosecute veterans, a man who campaigns against everything that British people often value. Who's gone against it. I mean, you can see him there in a combat jacket. I'm an army veteran. It's just, people just feel outraged. I was at the Reform meeting for veterans just the other day, and there's a real strength of feeling there, you know, that the country has been let down so badly by this government. And then the man who goes crawling to the communist regime, the evil communist regime in China. Just, as you said, the darkest hour is before the dawn.
Most definitely. John has messaged the show, Labour are in a desperate battle to see out their term in office. They know that come what may, when they get wiped out in the election, they are done for. Dave says, good morning, Mark. Is Starmer the worst PM ever? Well, you'll have Burnham, Rayner and Ed Millipede saying, hold my beer. That's Dave in Aberdeen. This is the problem we've got, is a change of Prime Minister won't fix this, Mike. Could even make it worse.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think Starmer is very left-wing. He pretends not to be. At least the people you've named there, they're actually at least honest, I suppose, about that. I mean, I've got no time for people like Jeremy Corbyn, but at least he was honest about his aims. Starmer really is the wolf in sheep's clothing. That's the difficulty I think we face with him. And maybe we might be better off if we had somebody honest enough to say, you know, I'm almost a communist, or I am a communist, and I'm going to rule the country with these very left-wing values. At least you could see right through it. Starmer, it appears to be dishonest.
And there's a theme emerging from a lot of the calls and texts into the show today, Mike, which is the idea of a Prime Minister and a government at odds with the values of this country, with the the culture of this country and with the institutions of this country. It feels like a war on Britain from those who govern us.
Well, I think the country is becoming very polarised. We see the sectarianism of voting in places like Birmingham, where people are voting on religious lines. In this nation, it's something we've only ever seen in Northern Ireland, isn't it? And, people in England were shocked about that. They couldn't understand that. No, I've served in Ulster, and we do not need that sort of politics in this country, but this is what we're going to get. It's becoming, as I say, very polarised, very strange. How do you get the Greens aligned with Palestinian Islamists? The values there are so extremely different, but they're somehow joined together. It just shows the bizarre nature of British politics at the moment.
Most definitely, I completely agree. This is a very interesting message from Sarah in Plymouth, who says, good morning, Mark and Mike. I've got a disability, cerebral palsy, which means that it's more difficult to move when I'm cold. I want to know the minimum temperature to which migrant hotels have to be heated. I can then heat my bungalow to the exact same temperature and send invoices for the additional cost to my new Labour MP, Anna Gelderd, or Director Starmer himself, likewise with dental treatment. This is the issue. I've got so many people that watch the show and listen, Mike, who feel like second-class citizens in their own country.
Yeah, it is, Mark. We discussed this before, and where we're coming to is a point where obeying the rules, playing by the game, is the foolish option. So going into a shop and paying for the goods that you want to buy, rather than just seizing them and running out of the shops. Working and paying your taxes and doing the right thing. All these are becoming the sort of stupid option, because we see that people can just rock up on our shore, be given a hotel, kept warm and fed, where elderly people with disabilities and genuine disabilities, people just try, farmers who work hard and all. It's just becoming to the point where people are thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to milk the cows? When the government hates my industry and they just they want to destroy it. It's a really bad place. But I think sometimes, Mark, as we've just said about the darkness and the darkness getting the worst, it's got to get to this point where people have had enough, and we have a change of government, and we can really move in a different direction, rather than like the Tories and Labour used to just switch over, be slightly different, nothing would ever change. At least we've got an opportunity now of seeing real change, and I think that's what people want.
Most definitely. They've lost the plot in Spain, Mike. Huge numbers of migrants queue along the street to collect paperwork after the socialist Spanish government announced it would grant legal status to 500,000 undocumented people. It's interesting, there's a lot of debate about Brexit. Well, I'm looking at the fact that 500,000 people will now have free movement across the bloc who are undocumented, and I'm thinking here in the UK, thank God we're out.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I've been a Brexit believer since I was about 12, I think. But with Spain, the ridiculous thing in Spain, of course, my mother used to live in Spain before she passed away, and all the British nationals who go over there and take their pensions and spend their money and bring money to the economy, they're under threat of being booted out every 6 months. And then they're bringing in people without any documentation who bring nothing to the country. It's absolutely crazy. And this is the price of socialism. It's madness. And the Spanish people ultimately were the ones who really suffer.
An asylum seeker has been jailed for life, Mike, for the murder of a woman who worked at the hotel at which he was staying. Deng Majek stabbed Rhiannon White 23 times with a screwdriver in a frenzied 90-second attack in 2024 after following the 27-year-old to Bescot Stadium railway station in Walsall. He was later caught on CCTV dancing and laughing. These are the kind of people that are crossing the channel on dinghies, the kind of people that we welcome, the kind of people, the majority of whom we actually grant citizenship to. When are people going to wake up?
I don't think they are going to wake up, Mark, to be honest, because they are followers of a religious cult. So this cult of multiculturalism, it's not some policy. It's a religious belief that they believe in, just like climate change. So you're never going to really change them. No matter how bad it gets, they'll still believe in this religion. And you don't have to look at the stats. So in the last 2 decades, the number of sexual offences that have been reported in this country have gone from 50,000 to over 217,000 crimes. Now, there are some reasons for this. There are people feel more confident to report matters to the police. We've had the grooming gangs who are at last being targeted after not being prosecuted at all. And there are other laws like, sharing images on the internet, which didn't exist 20 years ago. But that doesn't account for the enormous increase. What does account for it, I think, is mass uncontrolled immigration. You've got men coming into this country from cultures who have no respect for women, where women are not second-class citizens, they're third or fourth-class citizens. And this wicked murder, where this man killed Rhiannon White in Walsall with a screwdriver, stabbed her over 20 times. This is evidence of this. And what you have is a tragedy of I think his auntie had to tell her son that he'd never see his mum again. And that's just the awfulness of it.
And she said that the howl of pain from her young nephew was a sound, a primal scream that will stay with her for the rest of her life. The squeal of pain from that little boy is something she said she would take to her grave.
Yeah, absolutely. And these politicians should be made to listen to it, because we can't carry on. That women and girls are the most at threat. And I've said this before, that my youngest daughters live near on the south coast, and I had to warn them about going to Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth used to be a quintessential English town. There's a train that goes direct from Manchester to Bournemouth. So it's a place where my grandparents would have gone for a lovely holiday. And now I'm going to have to warn 2 little girls about the dangers of strange men in Bournemouth. That's when it starts to hit home. I think the other thing that's happened as well, Mark, is it's hitting home. Everybody used to watch the TV, and if you didn't live in Birmingham or London or Manchester, big cities, you used to think, all this talk of immigration, they must be a bit racist, the police are horrible and things like that. But now it's happening in Crowborough, in Epping, in Bournemouth. And so voting for the Liberal Democrats or the Greens and feeling good about yourself are no longer a good option. They're a really stupid and bad option. And I think the whole country now is tasting what inner city residents have tasted for the last 3 or 4 decades.
Mike, briefly, if you can, before we let you go, always a thrill to have you on the show. An 18-year-old woman waiting on a subway station platform was pulled onto the tracks in front of an incoming train last night by a Sudanese stranger, with both killed in a horrific incident in Germany. It's a young German woman. She's at the train station on her way home from work. A Sudanese national drags her onto the tracks. He doesn't know her from Adam. They're both killed. Is his ethnicity an aggravating factor, or is it racist to point out that he was a Sudanese migrant?
It's a fact. And Frau Merkel, the former German chancellor, can take responsibility. I was actually sent, Mark, to Cologne in 2015 to advise the German police after the sex attacks on New Year's Eve, where Assyrians assaulted hundreds of German women, and the authorities tried to cover it up there. Just like here, for 3 days they tried to cover it up until all sorts of mobile phone footage was released. The police president of the time was sacked. But what's happening all over the West, this isn't just in Britain, this is in Germany, in France, in Belgium, in Sweden. All these places have been let down by liberal left politicians who not only allowed this to happen, but when people started to notice it, they started to be called racist. And then not only that, the government, they would try to cover up, just like they covered up the grooming gangs here, they covered up in Sweden, they covered up in Germany. So I'm afraid, Mark, it's all over Europe, and something has got to be done to protect particularly women and girls.
Mike, thank you so much. Have an excellent Saturday, and we look forward to welcoming you back on the show very soon indeed. Mike Neville, retired Scotland Yard detective, chief inspector, saying it like it is. That guy, his background is extraordinary, right? Former top cop, not just that, ex-military as well. And he sees it. He's woken up. When are those who governors going to wake up to? Next up, it is 7:50. Is Keir Starmer the worst Prime Minister in history? Your calls, don't go anywhere.
To say that it's not happening in London, which I've heard him when questioned by Susan Hall a number of times. He bobs and weaves and evades the question and tries to pretend he doesn't understand it. But the truth is, we know it's happening in London, and we've got our 2-week hearing, which is starting on Monday. It'll be behind closed doors, obviously, for sort of safeguarding reasons. And we will be releasing, obviously, the sort of clips of what we think is suitable to be released.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This from John in Catalonia in Spain. Good morning, Mark. I moved to Spain 10 years ago to escape all the madness in the UK. I also had to jump through hoops to get residency, thousands in the bank, private medical. Looks like the madness is catching me up. That's right. You won't believe this. The socialist government of Spain is welcoming 500,000 undocumented migrants, and they're going to become Spanish citizens. That gives them free movement across Europe. And a number of those people may be criminals, because if we don't know their past, we don't know who they are. 500,000 people with free movement across Europe, but not Brexit Britain, because we control our borders, or at least we're supposed to. Thank God we are out. Pat is in Nottingham. Good morning, Pat.
In where?
Are you not in Nottingham?
No.
Oh, my goodness. Pat, where are you? Oh, do you know something? For some reason, it says Pat Nottingham Forest, and then it says London. I don't really understand.
Yeah, well, I do support Nottingham Forest, but I live in London.
Oh, do you know what? I suddenly thought I was on Talk Sport there for a minute. Pat joins us, Nottingham Forest. So what happens is, Pat, can I share a little secret with you about this radio and TV network, which is that our sister station is Talk Sport. And on Talk Sport, if you've got a regular caller, it will say, Steve, Spurs fan. And I think that's a legacy of that. So have you been speaking to Talk Sport at some point?
Yeah.
There you go. How are Forest doing, by the way? Are they going to stay up this season?
Oh, that's in the lap of the gods. But, I mean, they've been doing all right, like, the last few matches. I mean, apart from missing a penalty and scoring in their own goal against Braga. I mean...
That was unfortunate, wasn't it? Yeah.
It weren't unfortunate. I mean, you do miss penalties, but... You know, unfortunately, Gibbs White just patted it in instead of blasting it and taking the goalkeeper with it. You know, you can't. All right, if you miss a penalty, you miss a penalty, but miss a penalty for the right reasons. You strike the ball to score, not just to goalkeeper go down in 6 easy instalments.
Well, this is exactly it. You've got to at least aim for the target. Look, Pat, I think we're giving Talk Sport and Alan Brazil a run for their money. We need to get on to the state of the country, obviously, but, you know...
What it boils down to is that it seems that Keir Starmer isn't, or wasn't, the worst Prime Minister. You've got to go back to the 60s and Harold Wilson, and the synopsis of my call is about that there was an alleged plot to oust him by the establishment. It was hello.
I'm listening to you. I'm all ears, Pat.
Yeah, in 1968, because of the devaluation of the pound and bits and pieces of other things, that there was a serious talk going to sort of like, you know, subvert him basically by the establishment of this country, and to put in a government until there could be another election.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think, Pat, you know something? We obviously have historic precedent for incompetent governments, but this one, statistically, is provably the least popular. The Prime Minister, minus 49 now. And listen, a massive, massive response to my call from Georgina in London, who said that she speaks for all of us. She makes so much sense. She's absolutely nailed it. Another caller as well, Matthew, spoke to the show earlier. Sean in Bradwell, Mark, your caller, Matthew, nailed it. Well said, mate. All my love and thoughts to you and for your service to our country. Hugh says, Warrington man speaks for all of us. Britain can be saved. Just be patient. Jackie, I totally agree with all that Matthew had to say. Great show. Andy in Cheddar says, good morning, Mark. The caller you had on Matthew is the voice of the country, the people, the voice of common sense. Everything he said was 100% spot on. We don't need Etonian numpties in government. We need Matthew's real life experience, straight talking and common sense. The list goes on. Dorothy in East Kilbride. Good morning, Mark. First class call from Matthew in Warrington. I believe the majority of your listeners will agree wholeheartedly with everything he said. This debacle of a government will not go on forever. Let's hope we have a country left that is worth saving. And I could spend the rest of the show with regard to the positive remarks that have been referenced to from the brilliant, wonderful Matthew, and also Georgina in London as well. So much more to come. The weekend, this is the story. Half of UK voters want Keir Starmer replaced now in worst ever ratings. Could Labour MPs move to unseat him before the May elections? It's likely he's going to win the forthcoming by-election in Greater Manchester. Is the guy weeks away from losing the top job? My big concern is that I don't think that a change of Prime Minister is going to help. In fact, it's going to make things absolutely worse. Sue in Essex, good morning, Mark. Great show. I love Georgina, your other caller. She's brilliant. Yes, Starmer is the worst PM in history. James in Plymouth, Georgina says everything in such an eloquent and passionate manner and is 100% right. I'd love Kemi to question and hold the government to account and ask the questions that she's asking instead of political ping-pong and point scoring. Well, I've got to say, I think that Georgina speaks for so many of the viewers and listeners to this show. Gina in Warwick, good morning, Mark. Georgina speaks so well for so many of us. What a superstar she is. I would love to see her on Talk. Yes, I think we need to give her a contract, don't we? Folks, so much more to come. This is Talk Breakfast. Don't go anywhere.
Hello from Crowborough, where the local residents are enraged with what has happened to their community merely overnight when just 27 single male asylum seeker illegal migrants were bussed into their military training camp. Behind me are local residents, people from all over the country. Shabana Mahmood has said that this is an effective way of getting rid of those expensive, flashy asylum hotels. But unfortunately, these people are still placed within the community.
Whole town is very afraid because these are unvetted men from countries that are, the government warn us not to go to. I've got an 18-year-old daughter and she gets the bus opposite camp.
Do you feel safe for her?
No, so that will have to stop. We'll either have to wait with her or take her to wherever she needs to go.
The reason I'm here today is because I live in Crowborough and my family, I've got a wife and children, and just worried about, my wife walking to work and my sons, walking about. Anything can happen, can't it, that nowadays and age, what's going on, what's happening in this country. So I'm just concerned and frightened,
There was support from other towns, other communities, because of course Shabana Mahmood has threatened other communities, and she said they're going to open site after site after site. Well, I would hope that if she's going to try and do that, she learns some lessons about the way she's done it in Crowborough, because this is not finished. We are not finished objecting to this plan.
Grover says no! Grover says no! Grover says no!
We would urge her to reconsider, and whatever she does, she needs to talk to the people that she's imposing these things on.
If you had a direct line to Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood, what would you say to them?
Look after your most vulnerable first. It's your priority to look after your vulnerable.
If they're bringing illegal immigrants into a camp in the dead of night, why are they doing that? They're doing that because it's disingenuous, it's dishonest, it's covert, and they're trying to keep the reality away from the local community of what they're actually doing to us. We've now got to the end of the entrance to the camp, we've got cameras, we've got police drones. It's like a cloud that's come over this community.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past 8. A happy Saturday, one and all. Your weekend starts here. It's Mark Dolan on Talk Breakfast. A big 2 hours to come. And breaking this morning, Starmer on the brink as his poll rating slips to, wait for it, -49. That's colder than the North Pole. A clear majority of the public across the political spectrum now want him out. So could MPs move to unseat the Prime Minister before the May elections? We'll bring you the latest on a Premier that may just have weeks to survive in the top job. And I'm asking you this morning a simple question at 3 minutes past 8 on Talk Breakfast. Starmer is quite provably and statistically the least popular Prime Minister since records began. Is he the worst Prime Minister in British history? My number is 0344 499 1000, and Matthew is taking your calls, so pick up the phone, call Matthew and say, I'd like to contribute to Talk Breakfast, and drop some truth bombs. 0344 499 1000. A fresh Labour scandal as it's revealed that following the release of 3 million more documents in relation to the Epstein files, the former Labour government minister, former business secretary, the architect of Tony Blair's political revolution, Lord Peter Mandelson, begged Jeffrey Epstein to funnel thousands of pounds into the private bank account of his then lover and now husband. Now, what does this tell us about Sir Keir Starmer's judgment that this guy was appointed ambassador to the United States in 2024? And why the silence from establishment media about a former Labour cabinet minister who saw thousands of pounds funnelled into the bank account of his then lover by the disgraced paedophile Jeffrey Epstein? Where's the anger? Where's the scandal? Can you imagine if it was a former Conservative government minister or, God forbid, a sitting Reform UK MP? We'd never hear the end of it. Speaking of Epstein, a fresh headache for King Charles as his brother Andrew is again embroiled in scandal, with Epstein having fixed up a lunch with a beautiful young Russian woman, with an excited Andrew saying he can't wait, give her my number. What can King Charles do about his problematic brother and the bad headlines that won't go away? And is Keir Starmer the worst Prime Minister in history? Or do you want to defend his record in office? Is it a case of things will get worse before they get better? 03444991000, text the word talk in your message to 87222. Or leave us a voice note. It's going to be a busy 2 hours. Dolan's Dispatch coming at 9 o'clock. It might get me cancelled. Good. It's 6:08 in the morning. Your weekend starts here. As the saying goes, let's talk. And I'll tell you something we're going to kick off with today's front pages. The Sun newspaper, 1 year after jail release. Epstein fixed Russian girl for Andrew. Daily Express, nearly 10 years on and we're still waiting. Now you must give Britain a proper Brexit, say the Daily Express. Daily Star, Bill Gates caught a sexually transmitted disease from Epstein sex girls and plotted to secretly administer antibiotics on his then-wife, Melinda. The Guardian, Epstein sent money to Mandelson's husband. The Times newspaper, Epstein invited to palace following his conviction for child sex trafficking. And The Mirror, the Epstein files, Trump hit by underage sex claim. Let's get reaction to the big stories of the day in the company of two good friends of mine. Andy Williams is a political commentator and broadcaster, and Matthew Goodwin-Freeman, Conservative councillor. Good to see you, boys. Morning. Andy, you got a suntan, but you went very pale when I quoted you. Keir Starmer's political ratings, -49, the lowest in history. Even the Labour supporters want him out.
Oh, I mean, you can't deny it's absolutely terrible. He is deeply unpopular, as you said. I think statistically on that measure, the most unpopular Prime Minister in history. And the challenge, I think, is that he and his government are pleasing nobody at the moment. There's obviously a very good chunk of people who really, really hate this government, but then even people who enthusiastically voted for him aren't happy with the direction. I was very, very happy putting my vote against Keir Starmer's name at the last general election. I've been deeply disappointed for all sorts of reasons. He's not pleasing people on the left. So where's the constituency? Where is the groundswell of support for Keir Starmer and what he's trying to achieve? And the problem is exactly that. He doesn't know what he's trying to achieve. There is no project, there is no strategy, there is no sense of direction. And I think people really feel that. It's that lack of leadership that bothers people more than anything.
That said, I could have told you that before the election, because it was clear that this man has no principles, Matthew, and didn't have a plan for government.
Yeah, and it's that word, vision. There was no vision. It was simply coming into government saying we'd be changed, we'd be different, we wouldn't be the Tories. I think for the first time ever, Andy and I are in complete agreement. There is no constituency, there is no public out there going, yes, Keir Starmer is working for me and delivering for me. They came into government on that one word, change, but didn't define what change is. And then ever since coming into government have rowed back, U-turned, double U-turned when it comes to the WASPy women, for example. Like, all these things There is no stability, but this is a government with a huge majority. The biggest criticism of the previous Conservative government was they didn't use that majority. Well, Labour have an even bigger majority. They could change this country for the better overnight, but instead they can't even push through basic reforms, basic changes, because they're having rebellions from their MPs, and this is grinding the country to a halt.
And on that point, so actually it's not over for Keir Starmer. I know it looks like it is because the poll ratings are that bad, but they have that majority. If they can take a positive turn over the next few months and actually start to get things done and start to address the problems people are really facing and the cost of living and deal with welfare, which I think is a huge part of it, and, you know, get a fairer tax system in place and cut public spending and all of these sorts of things, you know, he could turn it around. But it's not impossible because...
We've said this for over 2 years now.
Well, it's not...
it's 18 months. We said, we said maybe Christmas would be the turning point.
A government that's been waiting 14 years for power shouldn't need a reboot after 18 months.
No, I don't think that's quite fair because this is not... No, hang on. They should have been much better prepared and they should have hit the ground running, and it's absolutely clear that they didn't have that plan, and that is unacceptable, right? But it's not fair to say they had 14 years because we had the nightmare of Corbyn, we had the previous nightmare of Miliband, which might be coming back around. So this has been this was 3 different Labour parties in that period of time, and 14 years is a long time. The country is in a very different,
Starmer was leader for what?
For 4 years? 4 years. 4 years. I accept they should have been much better prepared, but they still have that majority, they still have that opportunity, and if you look at the alternatives, the polls don't suggest that the country is crying out for the Tories. I know that Kemi seems to have made some
improvement in the polls at the moment,
but come on, it's still historically bad. It's still below 20%.
We're on roughly about 23-24% in the polls. Reform are up in 30. They're in first place. I think you guys have dropped down below the Greens now. So really, I think people should be moving to the Green Party. Look, I agree.
You think people should be moving to the Green Party
instead of Labour? Absolutely.
Really?
I think,
why?
Because Labour are a disaster. Look at their 18 months in government. You know, people are trying out for change. Anyways, look, the point is,
I'll have to challenge you on that.
Yeah, you can't.
No, I'm just saying, if Labour are dying, get rid of Labour. I don't mind.
No, because the Greens are dangerous.
Of course, but the point is, let them be 18% in the polls. They're not the government.
They're lunatic whack jobs that want to defund the police.
You know, hypnosis seems to be able to make anything grow apart from our fiscal deficit.
And they want to leave NATO.
No, absolutely. The point is, we're getting sidetracked here. Keir Starmer is the most unpopular Prime Minister in British history. The only thing that I think can turn Labour around is if they cut the top person, they have a new leader and say, right, this is my mandate, this is my direction, this is what the Labour Party are going to do. And for that to happen, 80 Labour MPs need to put their head above the parapet and say, I want Keir Starmer gone and I want this person to replace him. That is far different to the Conservative Party, where you can put in these secret quiet letters to the chairman of the 1922. They can build up quietly, no one knows how many they are, until they hit this threshold and we have a leadership challenge. It is absolutely rigged in the way to keep the leader there for Labour. And so that's why I think it's very hard to get rid of Keir Starmer. You need 80 MPs to put their head above the parapet. And even though they have, how many is it now, 408 MPs, it's still not going to... he's absolutely put the system in a way that fixes it for him.
I wonder, though, whether it's a red herring to suggest that Keir Starmer's rubbish at politics and this is just bad messaging and, you know, not ready for power. I think at the heart of this, Andy, is socialism. Left-wing policies just don't work. It's the terrible idea that never dies. Because since this government came into power, we've had taxes go up, we've had bumper pay rises in the public sector, we've seen inflation be sticky, we've seen the return of unemployment. It's left-wing policies that don't work.
Well, I certainly think that the left of the Labour Party are an enormous problem. I am not remotely on the left of the Labour Party, I never have been.
And they're calling the shots, aren't they?
They are calling the shots, and it's a huge problem. Keir Starmer himself, I don't think, is a socialist, but there are people waiting in the wings who are, like Ed Miliband, who would replace him and would move the party to the left, and I don't think that's what the country wants. Now, this is why talk of just changing leader and everything's going to be fine is problematic, because, as Matthew said, it's not that simple. Or, more importantly, who's going to replace Keir Starmer? You know, I think your strap there said, oh, Burnham is waiting in the wings. Well, he's not.
Not even an MP.
He's not in Parliament. That was blocked last week, and rightly so. Now, we can have a different conversation about Wes Streeting, but it's not as simple as just pulling names out of the hat and saying this person will completely revolutionise things and everyone will love them all of a sudden. No, you need a proper plan.
And you, I would have thought now, given you've got a head on your shoulders, you've got a lot of common sense, Andy, and a good brain on you as well, that what you should have done in July of 2024 is vote either Conservative or Reform.
Well, it was
absolutely
I completely disagree with that. Obviously, it was not credible to vote Tory at the last election because
they should have voted Tory.
Hang on.
Tory weren't perfect, but my God,
better than this.
Wouldn't you bite your hand off for Rishi Sunak?
Well, Rishi was right about so much. He is absolutely right.
You
about
should have
so
voted for a right-wing party.
So the Tories. They had ruled themselves out because they had run the country so badly, and their record over 14 years showed that in every single area of public life, arguably with the exception of education, they made things worse. And so you cannot. It's not credible to vote for a party with that record.
We had 2% inflation.
We did after it had been 10.
The rewriting of 14 years, right? The first government was a coalition with the Lib Dems trying to restart the economy after Labour trashed
it. They came out.
Hold on. The second government was Theresa May's. This whole Brexit, trying to negotiate, trying to get a deal, not a deal, any deal. I mean, I was saying at that point, Theresa May was trying to appease everybody and please nobody, much like what Keir Starmer's doing now. Then we had, absolutely. Then we had Boris and his whole COVID disaster. And trying to push. Well, hold on, push us through the first pandemic in a generation. And then what happened afterwards? No one's trying to, say that was right, but dealing with a once in a generation pandemic. Then we had Liz Truss.
Disaster.
Enough said about that. Then we had Rishi Sunak, who set 5 promises, only managed to deliver 3 of them, but now we would all take back at a heartbeat. You can't say the whole 14 years was chaos. The last 14 months, I completely appreciate, absolute disaster. Even I, as a Conservative member, councillor, volunteer, absolutely disappointed with the party. But at the end of the day, you can't have this revisionist history of these 14 years. It's not. It's an easy strapline, but it wasn't.
Thank you. To translate what you just said, first 6 years good, last 8 years bad. That's pretty poor.
But still getting re-elected and still more popular than right now with Labour.
But this is the problem, Matthew, and this is why people in elected politics, a lot of them like you just see it as a game, and it's all about we won.
I'm actually elected, Andy, is the point, and I've got elections in 98 days' time, and I'll be happy to wait.
Can you listen?
No, you need to listen, Andy, because you need to get out into the real world and speak to the public, because the fact is, people are fed up of Labour. They are fed up of being gaslit. They are fed up being told that we can solve this overnight, and they're not actually dealing with it. They are fed up of politicians saying that, it's very complicated, it's very difficult. Labour have the greatest majority this country has seen for generations. They could change this country for the better, but instead they are trampling over working people, not protecting working people.
Let Andy talk.
Elected politics is not the real world. The real world is business and the private sector, which is my real day-to-day job.
Let Andy finish.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think Labour have made lots of mistakes, but to your point about the last election, there was, the Tories, it was completely not credible to vote for them. They really ruined so many aspects of this country. And Labour, I know people are tired of hearing it, and they've made a ton of mistakes. And I'm being far more objective than anyone else in this room right now. They've made a ton of mistakes, but they inherited a terrible situation.
Made up of 22 billion
on any objective level, Labour inherited a very, very bad situation on all sorts of levels. It was always going to take at least 5 years to clear it up. Have they made a ton of mistakes in the first 18 months? Absolutely they have.
Well, they haven't made mistakes, and I think it's just disingenuous to call it a mistake. It's left-wing policies. It is inflation-busting payouts. Why is inflation so high? It was 2%, which is a target figure under Rishi Sunak in July of 2024. We had the highest growth in the G7. We bounced back very quickly after COVID. There was a small matter of 50 billion to subsidise people's fuel bills, the cost of energy after the Ukraine invasion. It was
we shouldn't have done that.
$500 billion for COVID lockdowns. Well, we'll come to that. $500 billion for COVID lockdowns. Your leader, Keir Starmer, wanted longer and more lockdowns than we actually had. So the bottom line is, I think that you can learn from your mistakes, Andy, and I think what you're going to need to do at the next election is vote for an incredibly right-wing party, okay? Either a reformed Conservatives who are actually Conservatives or Nigel Farage, because you care about this country.
Absolutely.
So what you should do is you should vote for a party that reduces the tax burden so that we can have more investment in the country and economic growth, which is national income, which you can give to doctors, nurses and school teachers.
I agree with reducing...
So that's why you need to vote for a right-wing government.
Look, I'm a
we
Blair...
need conservatism.
I'm a Blairite. I'm not a left-winger, OK? I completely believe in reducing the tax burden and doing it in a sustainable and fair way.
Why did you vote for a party
doing it in a sustainable and fair way.
Why did you vote for a party that did the opposite?
Well, they shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have done that. But you have to when you're making a decision about who you think is best placed to run a country, and nobody apart from like mad, very unusual people who are like dyed-in-the-wool party activists, with the exception of those people, nobody thinks you're facing that there's a perfect choice available to you. And Labour was never a perfect choice, but I made a judgment that it was the best choice, and I still think it was, because the Tories were broken, and reform, I mean, we can talk about reform and all of the problems with them, but you're never going to catch me voting for Nigel Farage and his band of knackered, you know, embarrassing ex-Tories who presided over chaos and disaster.
Well, let's continue this, because I think that what Britain needs is an incredibly right-wing government for the next 10 years, and I'm talking about Thatcherism on acid, and that's how we fix the country. So we'll discuss whether both of my colleagues agree with that, and why don't you join the conversation? Does Britain need a healthy, strong dose of true conservatism now to fix our problems? 0344 499 1000. Join the conversation. This is Talk Breakfast.
did say, no, the rights of the asylum seekers are above the rights of the British people.
Shabana Mahmood is going onto these media channels and saying that she's been, engaging with communities, engaging with police. She's engaged with no one.
The latest is that Brooklyn could be set to sign a 7-figure book deal, and it's the same publisher as Prince Harry's Spare. That makes me shudder.
And Mel B wasn't there. Scary wasn't there, so I'm going to step in. I'm here. I'm ready for it. Nigel, I'm sorry. I'm joining the Spice Girls.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Why should we take Rishi back, says Fiona. Welcome to Talk Breakfast, 8:22. He handed it to these socialists. Question is why? Listen, folks, let's discuss whether what the country needs is a dose of conservatism. Because, Andy, you clearly care about the country and the fate of this country. So I'm going to outline a set of suggested policies for the next government, whoever it is. I want change, just like my audience, and I don't care who does it. I don't care if Starmer does it. I don't care if Nigel Farage does it, or Kemi Badenoch, or Ed Davey. But here are the policies. You scrap net zero, which will reduce the cost of energy for ordinary people, and it will be great news for industry. We can start making things again because we'll have cheap energy with which to do so. I would also tackle wokery in our public institutions so that the NHS is not allowed to call pregnant women birthing people. I would stop the boats unilaterally, and I would happily break every single international law and become more demonised than Russia and Iran in order to do so. I don't care how we stop those boats. Stop them, we will. Reduce legal net migration to a maximum of 50,000 people. Lock that in as a parliamentary act. I don't care about the care homes, about the NHS, any of those things. With 10 million people of working age not active in the economy, they can work in a care home, and their benefits will be stopped if they don't. The other thing I would do is I would restore patriotism into our public bodies. I would have schools teaching the fact that slavery was terrible but that we ended it, and that Britain is probably the greatest nation on earth given the fact that we gave the world parliamentary representative democracy, we did end slavery, the Industrial Revolution, the rule of law, free speech, William Shakespeare, the Beatles and Sir Elton John. That's what we need. We need a party that does those policies. And why don't Labour realise that that's what the country needs?
Well, I'm all in favour of teaching kids that Elton John's brilliant, and none of us can disagree with that.
I'm still standing.
Absolutely. So I think, on that last one, restoring patriotism, I mean, good schools already do that, so that's done, tick.
Schools teach kids to hate their country.
No, they don't. That's absolute nonsense. Yeah. The wokery thing, you know, if we're actually being... What's interesting there is none of those things have anything to do with the economy, which is the thing that affects people's lives more than anything. I mean, migration...
Net zero's got a lot to do with the economy.
Well, I mentioned before the break lowering tax so that we can have national income, yeah. So throw that one into the mix.
OK. What we really...
And I do that, by the way, by cutting the state.
What we really need to do is blow up the way our economy works and start again. We need to reform our tax system from the ground up so that it's fairer, so that the tax burden is...
What does fairer mean?
Fairer means that people who can afford to pay more, but not enough.
Right. No. Tax the millionaires, they leave the country.
Can I just finish one sentence, please?
Well, not when you're talking absolute rubbish.
No, you can't finish a
sentence. Because it's pointless. Listen to me. What I'm arguing for is a progressive tax system. So unless you're saying we should have a flat tax, which you might be, then you're not disagreeing with me, right? It means that people who can afford to pay more, like me, I am very fortunate to earn very good money, I'm happy to pay more. But I'm not happy to pay 60%, 70%. I'm not in favour of wealth taxes. I'm not in favour of what Labour did with non-doms, for example, which has driven very wealthy people who invest in this country out of this country. I'm not in favour of that. I'm in favour of a fairer tax system where ultimately we pay less tax. We need to bring down public spending as well. We urgently need to tackle welfare, which has created a huge disincentive for many people to go to work. It's out of control. It means that people can say they've got ADHD and are then thrown on the scrap heap and never reassessed and never asked to go back into the workforce. These are the sorts of things we need to focus on.
You're in the wrong party. Everything you've said is right. Everything you've said is right, and you can clip that and make it a meme. But everything you've said is objected to by Labour backbenchers who wouldn't even let Labour do the right thing by shaving the welfare budget for disabled people by £5 billion.
Oh, I agree with you on that. But here's the thing.
But this is a party that you elected.
Because
it's your fault. No, you apologise to my audience.
I'm not going to apologise. Because a Labour...
Sorry seems to be
the hottest word.
Very good. It's Elton John song. See what we did there.
I guess that's why they call it the blues.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no yellow brick road anymore,
look, I think that a Labour Party that's on the right of politics or in the centre is best placed to deliver everything that we've said. Tony Blair did all of these things. The Blair-Brown government did
Tony Blair was far right compared to what we've got now.
Wow. It wasn't far right, but he was. By the way, Shabana Mahmood.
Some of those Labour backbenchers. Ask Richard Bergen.
Shabana Mahmood's immigration. Well, he's an idiot. Shabana Mahmood's immigration policy is the furthest right that we've probably ever seen in any government in British politics.
And I've given her credit earlier in the show.
Right, exactly. Good. So what we need to do is, I think a Labour government is best placed to deliver that. And the reason I'm not going to ever, and I can categorically say this, there's a world in which I would vote for a sensible Tory party that was in the centre of British politics. I actually think Kemi Badenoch's taking them in the wrong direction. Maybe Matthew has a view on that. But the reason I would never vote for reform is that there are so many unsavoury, distasteful, anti-British things about reform and about their policies, about what they say. Not to mention the dire, and this is my last thing I'll say, not to mention the dire calibre, with a few exceptions. I think I have respect for Zia Youssef, for example, but the calibre of people on the front line of the Reform Party is deeply embarrassing.
There are I've bitten through my tongue too much listening to that. There are so many deeply unpopular, unsavoury, what did you say, anti-British things that this Labour government are doing. Selling the Chagos Islands, handing over billions to other countries instead of our own. $500 million every year to France to not stop the boats with this one-in, one-out system that's only 194 people so far, when we've had 40,000 people come in, taxing working people to the hilter, but hey, we'll tread more lightly on working people. But no one can define what a working person is, apart from all of us. We can, for some reason. Handing out bumper pay rises to the unions, promising compensation for the WASPy women, then unpromising it, then saying they'll do it again, and then once again U-turning this week alone. Now, all these sorts of things are like, I actually think, Andy, a lot of the things you're saying that you believe in and you'd stand for, and that's what you want the Labour Party to do, that is what the Conservative Party is trying to change into, and under Kemi with this renewal and these policies or whatever. I'm not here to defend it or say that that's the golden world for you to join, but frankly, the Labour Party's not the vehicle for you, because Keir Starmer has no plan. No one knows what he stands for. His vision in 2024 was just the word change, and we've all seen it. It's not the change we wanted. So that's not going to change, right? Keir Starmer is in a very safe spot in the Labour Party. It is very hard to get rid of him. I've said you need 80 Labour MPs to stand up and say, I want that person to replace him. It is not going to happen.
It is.
Well,
he'll be gone by the summer.
Well, sorry, I heard people saying last year he'd be gone by the summer, and then he'd be gone by Christmas, and then he'd be gone by May. I'm sorry. You know, it's just, you can keep promising and promising this. This country is dying out for a new direction, and unfortunately, a lot of the things that you want, a lot of things that, I mean, Mark, Christ, with your introduction, you should frankly run for PM. I think a lot of people would support it, because you're speaking the common sense that people want. We are fed up of being taxed to the hilter and seeing it go to those who don't deserve it. We are fed up of the welfare state being ever expanding and not even basic reforms being able to push through in the government. Net zero is costing this country billions and billions and billions a year, but instead is only going to be 1% of the entire emissions. I'm sorry, but we do need to have a real shake-up in this country, and it's not going to be this Labour government with this majority.
Can I ask you a
yes or
no
trust.
question? Are you frustrated that Labour hasn't changed the welfare system since?
Absolutely.
Well, who created?
They should have brought in those reforms.
Who created the welfare system? The current one, the Tories.
And we're not in government, Andy. You can't keep pointing the finger at the past. You guys are in government right now. Use that majority, whip your MPs, and change the welfare system. You can't blame the Tories who aren't in government now. We got our kicking on July the 4th, 2024. We are not in government now. You guys have had 18 months to sort this country out. Stop gaslighting the country. Stop saying it's all the terrible Tories. Actually go find some evidence for that £22 billion black hole that Rachel Reeves made up and no one can say existed. Go and sort this country out instead of saying, oh, it's all the problem with the past. We can't deal with the past because we're in government right now, but we can't do it. I'm sorry, I'm fed up of hearing it. And every time there's a Labour commentator or a Labour politician who says, oh, the terrible Tories, the 14 years, you are in charge right now. Do something about it right now. Use your majority and change the country for the better.
But two things can be true at the same time. And some of us can make our arguments in a calm way.
Well, I've just spent the last 5 minutes listening to you and politely, you know, biting my tongue through. You now need to have a taste of your own medicine and realise what the British public are feeling.
Andy.
Two things can be true at the same time. It can be the case that Labour have failed to improve the situation, if we take welfare as an example. But surely we also we do have to point out that it was created by the previous government. And so you either, as a representative of the Conservative Party, have to come on and say, do you know what, we were a complete disaster. We actually presided over chaos and catastrophe.
I literally said that 10 minutes ago, the last 14 months ago.
No, you didn't, because you're making an argument that the last government actually was fine. And then when you made the argument, you said the first 6 years were good and the last 8 were terrible, which is a pretty poor record. So I think that's a very reasonable... That gives us a very reasonable... that says it's very reasonable to not have voted again for another 5 years of Conservative government.
I'm going to throw you a bone.
Yeah.
Because you're so right. Most of the damage happened under the Tories.
Correct.
So signing up for net zero.
If you look back at the 13 years that we had before the Tories came in under Blair and Brown, the government was much better run. The economy was in much better shape. Things were, in pretty much every respect, not every respect, but largely things were much better in this country, and I think people would agree with that. And this is why I think the Labour Party can, not this Labour Party necessarily, the Labour Party can be the vehicle for all of the things I've been arguing for if you have a clear sense of direction and the right people in charge. We don't have it at the moment, I accept that. Right.
Well, this is a Blair government that was one of the first governments in history to borrow money during a period of economic growth that they inherited from the Conservatives and Kenneth Clarke's amazing 1996 budget.
Well, that's true, but we had a surplus under Blair.
Right, but the other issue you had, but you continued to borrow money under Gordon Brown, who was a big fat socialist. You opened the border to the east of Europe unnecessarily, doing more than the EU required as an EU member, so that wages went down in the north of England, sowing the seeds of Brexit. You also had major changes to the constitutional and legal structures of this country, which means that now, thanks to the Human Rights Act and much other besides, that we can't deport paedophiles, rapists and murderers, all thanks to Tony Blair. And now we've got a government that's made things worse. So why, if you're happy with the fact that you voted Labour, is unemployment going up? Why is inflation almost double what it was under the Tories? And why is growth through the floor?
Oh, I think we're in a really bad situation.
So you
think our economy...
voting for... You should have voted Reform or Tory.
No, I absolutely don't.
That's the truth,
I absolutely don't accept that. We've talked about why I don't think it was credible to vote Tory.
Well, we'd have lower inflation, we'd have less unemployment, wouldn't we? And we'd have more growth.
I don't know.
That sounds really good.
I don't know if we would have more growth, because I don't think the Tories didn't have a plan. I don't think for that either, and I don't think I still don't think they do. But you know, I'll give them. They're now in a period of trying to work out where they need to be. So I'm not saying Kemi should be coming out with like a detailed 100-page manifesto 3 years out from a general election. So, you know, let's not be too hard on her. But they didn't have a plan either. And I do, unfortunately, I think, I'll tell you where I really do agree with Keir Starmer, is when he says that Reform they are un-British and they are seeking to divide. I don't know why you're not even... Are you going to defend it as well?
Let's continue this. OK, what we'll do, hold fire, because that's a great debate.
Every time I criticise Reform, Matthew's shaking his head and looks really upset about it.
What we're going to do, I'm going to let you criticise Reform after this, and you're not going to be interrupted, neither of you will. Are Reform anti-British? That's the contention of my studio guest. We'll do that next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You're listening to Talk Breakfast, 8:37. This is a voice note from Anna in Surrey.
Morning, Mark. Anna, Surrey. Both of these men are delusional, sixth form politics. Neither of you are grasping why the British people will get behind reform in millions. You're both out of touch. Keir Starmer is a Marxist and the Tories are Lib Dems, and the British people will not vote for either of those parties for many, many years, and anyone who votes for the Greens should be sectioned. Thank you. Goodbye.
There you go, Anna, thank you for that. Anna's given both of you a hand bagging.
Spot on.
And the reason why the Tories failed in office is the reason why Labour are failing now, which is left-wing policies.
Yep.
So, legal net migration of 1 million people in a year, 2023, Boris Johnson.
Net zero.
Net zero.
Making that into law.
Theresa May's Chancellor, Philip Hammond, do you remember the spreadsheet, Phil?
Yes.
He came into number 10 into her office and he said the cost of net zero is £1 trillion.
That's ridiculous.
And Theresa May said, where do I sign? So, left the expansion of the welfare state, the scope of the state, in my view, COVID overreaction, where we had communism for 2.5 years with the lockdowns, a very unconservative response. So it's left-wing policies from Labour and the Tories that have left us where we are.
I've said for the last year and a half, I've come on this show and every other show saying the Conservatives messed up, that's why we're not in government. And what I've seen in the Conservative Party over the last year and a half is this move towards the soft, wet, liberal world. We saw the other week that Ed Davey said he'd be open to defections from the Tories to the Lib Dems. I've retweeted that saying, sorry, if there are any Tories considering going to the Lib Dems, that's not the Conservative Party I joined. Andy, you said before the break, why am I so, outraged or defensive whenever people criticise reform? Is because actually I think reform are touching on the pulse of a lot of the issues in this country. They are standing up for British people and the working people that Labour said they would and the Conservatives said that they would as well, and they are genuinely trying to put British interests first. I do find it outrageous that we can't say, hey, let's be patriotic about this country, let's support British people, let's actually find the issues to these problems. And yeah, I've been able to hold my hand up and say, no, I disagree with a lot of the direction the Conservative Party have gone. I've tried to change things from the inside. Remember, I'm a councillor, a volunteer, I work for an MP. I'm trying on the inside to change things, but people have asked me, when's that straw break for you? When's that moment where you go, do you know what, I can't change this anymore? And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to change things, but I'm only one person. I'm a small cog in a massive machine. And that's why I come on shows like this, call out problems of the past, say, yeah, we mess things up and we're trying to change. But also, that gives me the ability to say, do you know what, actually, the grass is greener or a lighter shade of blue over there, and they are saying the things that maybe we should be saying.
But as a patriotic Conservative, and by the way, I don't think this is what you were saying, but we have to dispense with this myth that being on the left means you're not patriotic. Many, many people on the left are genuinely patriotic, care about this country and think we can do great things and that we are a great nation. But as a patriotic Conservative, you should be calling out the reasons reform are unfit to govern, of which there are many. That's what you should be doing. You should be saying, no, the reason you need to vote Tory, not reform, is whatever it is. But there are all sorts of reasons why reform are unfit to govern.
Well, first of all, take me through the anti-British.
I will in a second. If you think reform are actually better placed, then you've got a decision to make, like lots of other people have. I think reform are anti-British because they absolutely are seeking to divide. I think they only care about a certain type of person in Britain. I don't think they are welcoming of people from other cultures with open arms. And I think the tolerant, open, diverse, and I mean diverse in all sorts of respects, by the way. I'm not just talking about religion or race or whatever. I mean diversity of thought, interest and culture. I don't think they're like that. I think they're actually pretty straight up and down, monocultural, not interested in an outward-looking Britain. I think they're inward-looking. And I genuinely believe, I think there's about a 20% constituency for that, I do, but I don't believe that there is a majority in this country, as your voice noter then just suggested, for that outlook on the world. And it's that kind of extreme reactionary rhetoric, calling Keir Starmer a Marxist, for example. You might not like him, but with all due respect, anybody who thinks Keir Starmer's a Marxist literally doesn't understand Marxism.
Well, he's certainly very left-wing, but what I want to ask you is, when you mention a certain type of people that reform favour, what do you mean by that?
I mean, I think undoubtedly they are more... They're more keen on people who are indigenous Brits than they are on anybody else.
Would that pertain to skin colour?
I think... well, look, I think I've been asked before is, like, do you think Nigel Farage is a racist? No, I do not. No, I do not. I think
indigenous Brits implies, unless you're listening to the BBC, white people.
Yeah. Well...
so that's what you're saying?
No. Indigenous Brits are people who were born here. So
okay.
I'm talking about people who were born here. So
I don't think that's what indigenous means, by the way.
Well, it depends. I'll give you an example, though. I think reforms...
Well, what's wrong, by the way, what's wrong with a government that is pro the people born in this country?
Nothing. But what's wrong is
you've
the
just
anti...
thrown shade on that.
No. I've thrown shade on the anti, not on the pro. Now, what I'm saying is that if you take
tied up in knots,
I'm not getting tied up in knots.
Do you want to take a little breather?
No. I'm just going to say one thing.
I'll feel for you. It's fine, don't worry.
I'm just going to. If you look, for example, at Reform's policy on indefinite leave to remain, now maybe we need to look at that. And Labour actually have already made a change on that, and they've doubled from 5 to 10 years
Thanks
the period
to
of time
Nigel
you have to
Farage
wait.
for shifting the Overton window.
Well, look, the point is Labour have done
Isn't
that,
it?
okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, I mean, the Overton window has definitely shifted in a direction that I'm not exactly delighted with, but we are where we are. Reform are saying that if you weren't born here, even if you came here when you were 3 years old, every 5 years we're going to review your status. I think that's completely unacceptable.
But
now,
if
other people disagree,
but for that, then that's the government that has a mandate.
It's also
yes,
and
absolutely.
they're currently 33, 34% in the polls.
No, look, I'm not disagreeing with if they win the election, they've got a mandate for whatever. I'm saying I personally think it's distasteful.
But
and
wait a
disgusting.
minute, you said it's anti-British. Surely policies that favour people born in this country, who, by the way, are British, surely that's pro-British, and that would be a multi-ethnic population. Who are... So here's my question to you. If you're worried about division and if you think there's a sort of slightly racial element to the Reform UK offer, why does it have a multi-ethnic makeup at the top of the party? And why are so many people, British people of colour, going to vote Reform in a couple of years' time? Are they stupid? Do they not know that
not even a couple of years'
it's
time
very prejudicial?
Never said that any Reform voters were stupid. I think, like, every party has stupid voters. Like, let's be honest. Of course they do. Many people. Let's be absolutely clear about this. Many members of the British public and of any public are stupid, and they'll vote Labour and they'll vote Tory and they'll vote Green. So I'm not saying that Reform voters are stupid, I'm not saying they're racist, but I don't like the direction which I think is more divisive, is less inclusive than I would like to see Britain be.
Jeremy Clarkson writing in The Sun, Reform may get in, but what will they do about stuff?
Yeah.
What do you think about that intervention from Clarkson, Matthew?
Yeah, I think we need Reform to start coming... I mean, Reform have come out with a lot more policies than any of the other parties. They're throwing things out there and seeing what sticks and then working with that. I agree, though, with what Clarkson says. We need Reform to now start fleshing out a soft manifesto, start fleshing out, this is our direction on this policy, this is our direction on that policy. But one of the things that Reform are doing is bringing together a massive coalition of people and voters, moving away from the left versus right of politics and just moving to what is right and what is wrong, saying that actually we want immigration to be lower, we want illegal immigration to be stopped, we want to protect our borders, we want to put British people first, we want to be proud of our country, we want to deal with the issues instead of talk and say and come up with whatever excuse and blame whoever for the past. Like, that is what Reform are offering, and that is a vision. And that comes back to what we said right at the start. They have a vision for this country. They have a plan, a hope, an agenda for this country. And that's what the other parties aren't offering at the moment. Labour promised change, but we've got change for the worse. The Conservatives are renewing and coming up with plans and policies, you know, promising to get rid of stamp duty, for example. Massive, brilliant announcement that loads of people are in favour of.
I agree with that.
You know, things like that. See, even Andy's in favour of it, so maybe he'll vote Conservative.
Stamp duty is a terrible...
Maybe he'll vote Conservative.
I think Andy's in the wrong party, and I think at the next election, I think he is going to vote for Reform, and when he's at a dinner party in Islington, he'll pretend that he's moved to the Greens, but secretly he's cheering on Nigel Farage.
I'm in favour of scrapping stamp duty, and I'm in favour of dinner parties in Islington, which is a lovely.
Well, I look forward to your joining the Conservative Party membership very shortly, then, and we'll see how that goes.
Listen, boys, the essence of this show is opinion and the free debate around opinion, and I'm so grateful to both of you for contributing to this conversation.
You're welcome.
The best part of 10 million people voted Labour. They want this government to succeed. You want this government to succeed as well, Andy.
Absolutely. And if Labour turn the corner, I'm sure we'll all sit here and acknowledge that they have.
Well,
we're still waiting. Still waiting.
I always say if they do good stuff, if they build more houses, Shabana Mahmood
give them credit.
Has made some good moves as Home Secretary, so we'll look to praise this government where possible. The opinion polls will say it's an uphill battle, but let's see. My thanks to two good friends of mine, Andy Williams, back from his trip to Australia looking very sunny and tanned, and Matthew Goodwin-Freeman, Conservative councillor. Lads, come back and see me again soon. It's over to you now. Your calls next. This is Talk Breakfast.
Office did say, no, the rights of the asylum seekers are above the rights of the British people.
Shabana Mahmood is going onto these media channels and saying that she's been, engaging with communities, engaging with police. She's engaged with no one.
The latest is that Brooklyn could be set to sign a 7-figure book deal, and it's the same publisher as Prince Harry's Spare. That makes me shudder.
And Mel B wasn't there. Scary wasn't there, so I'm going to step in. I'm here. I'm ready for it. Nigel, I'm sorry. I'm joining the Spice Girls.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Is Keir Starmer the worst Prime Minister in history? 8:50 Talk Breakfast. John is in the capital. Good morning, John.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm very well. Thanks for your call. What do you make of this Prime Minister? Minus 49 in the polls. That's colder than the North Pole. What do you think about this?
Well, to be honest, I mean, I don't have much truck with the majority of politicians. Most of them are just, like you say, that take the Tories moving to reform.
Yeah.
They're about to lose their jobs, so that's the next available party. But particularly, I mean, Keir Starmer, I can't stand it. The Labour Party are, I mean, traitorous is the word I would use. It just beggars belief in the fact that we have, while it's a very complex, the world with risk and geopolitics, it's all hyper-connected. I get there's no simple black and white answers, but sometimes when you need to look at looking at your own country and looking at how we need to work for the betterment of our people. You show me, I mean, the Conservatives are equally as complicit. I mean, I won't get started on, all the issues we've got with immigration and everything else that's going on, but they're all equally complicit. There's not one of them that has turned around and actually said, you know what, this is good for our country and I am going to do this as a party. It just doesn't happen. It's Brexit. Oh, please. I mean, we bent over literally for Brussels, and we were punished for the audacity of leaving Europe. Now, I didn't buy into any of the red buses going around about 3.4 million a week's going to go to the NHS. I mean, please. I mean, but the whole point is, we've got one government after another that's basically they're just looking after their own political interests. They couldn't care less about the people of this country, and they don't care less whether that's imported, whether that's through illegal method. They were saying earlier, indigenous people. Oh, please! It's just gaslighting. That famous, greenwashing term. This is political wash. Let's just say words. We're not going to do anything about it. We're just going to manage ourselves, manage what's best for our political rhetoric and where we think we want to go. Everyone else, you're along for the ride until the next change. And then it'll be the same. And then they'll just sit there blaming the last 5-6 years of previous control. It's just, we need a complete structural change. And I don't mean open anarchy. I just mean, meritocracy, people that actually know what they're doing, as opposed to elected, I can't swear, but, it's just, it beggars belief. I'm well-educated, I'm well-travelled, and this, as soon as you have a difference of opinion, you're racist, you're bigoted. No, I'm fed up. I'm fed up and angry of struggling to get by because of taxes, costs, and then we go, well, we've done this. And no, you haven't done anything tangible that makes the real person actually go, do you know what? Thanks for that. That actually makes a difference to my life. The only time it makes a difference to your life is, unfortunately, if you're a multimillionaire and it doesn't matter anyway, or you say, do you know what, sod it, I'm going to throw myself on the benefit system. Anyone in between is just bled to death. It's so frustrating. And like you say, I don't have any trust in any political party. I really, really don't, because they'll get in and it'll just be the same again, unless there is an absolute change in core structure of how we govern this country.
Most definitely. And John, that's why I use the word revolution, not change. Every election, the politicians will change this, will change that. It needs to be stripped out. And John, the political, corporate and public sector establishment needs to be wiped out, needs to be destroyed. Is there any hope that a figure like Nigel Farage could do that?
Do you know what? I mean, he's a very, very good spokesperson, and do I agree with some of his statements? Yes. Do I trust him to make any change? No. I mean, you just take for a fact they say that this loss in trust, and this is a key element here, is the British public, there's no loss, there's a massive loss of trust in politics, not just here, worldwide. But is there any wonder? He himself's been pulled up on various bits of, taxable, infringements. It's like, listen, if you're in that position and you want to run our country, you need to be above reproach. Now, I don't care how people make their money. You take Rishi Sunak, he's out of touch, he's a multimillionaire. Well, good luck to him, because if I could work hedge funds like he did, I'd be a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
I don't begrudge anyone that. I don't begrudge the fact that Keir Starmer's a well-paid lawyer. Good luck to him. But the point is, they're getting into positions where they're supposed to be representing the people, and none of them do, and none of them will, unless you just say we have major reform in terms of, almost rebellion. Rip it up and start again.
And it would be, John, if we're looking for a figure to, do that revolution, it's going to be a Trump-style personality, isn't it?
Again, I don't know. I mean, this is the thing.
I know he says a lot of stupid things, and he's got a gigantic ego, and he's a bit of an idiot sometimes, but look at the unilateral way in which Trump closed the southern border and cut taxes and signed those executive orders on day one, keeping men out of women's sport, all the rest of it, running around the world, closing peace deals. I mean, this is the sort of revolutionary figure we need in Britain, isn't it?
We need someone that will definitely come in and make those changes to say, do you know what, Brussels, whatever, that doesn't benefit us. No. Get on with it and make those. Absolutely. Do I think we need someone that's quite as unhinged as Trump doing that? Then no. But who would we have? Do you know what? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, as I said, it's such a complex situation, but we don't have anyone in politics that is credible. Now, I mean, I'm a child of the 70s, but whether you agree with their politics or not, Kinnock, Heseltine, Thatcher, regardless of where you stand in terms of agreement, were credible politicians. We don't have anyone with any credibility these days. There isn't anyone at all that you would come out and go, I'll put my money behind them. You've got to take into account that, this whole thing on the back of reform about, as soon as it's bigoted, and I mentioned gammons and all of that. Yes, we've got some morons in this country that well, that's a good idea. I get that, but you've got that everywhere, and you've got that across every political slant. But in terms of a real, tangible figure that's going to come up, maybe there is someone on the back bench that is actually going, do you know what? Enough. But an answer to that, I don't know. But absolutely, we need a fundamental and categorical change from the ground up, because we are literally, this is the last days of Rome. We're dancing while Rome's burning. Every great civilization at each stage towards its end implodes, and we are doing exactly that. I don't see any real light at the end of the tunnel, if I'm being honest. It's negative, but let's be honest. I work in risk and security, and I read lots of risk reviews, reports, and sometimes you think, I need to change my job. Just a bit of good news once would be nice.
John, you speak for a nation. One of the most important calls I've ever taken on Talk, and all I will say to you is stay positive. You're right, the country needs a total revamp from the ground up, as you say, not change, a revolution. Strip it down, pull out the plug,
start it over again. And John, we must never give up. This country has faced 2 world wars. We've had pandemics. We've had economic crashes. We will prevail, but only with the right leadership and the right vision. John, thank you for your call. And I feel your pain, and so do my viewers and listeners. Listen, I've got a full switchboard. It's kicked off. Endless voice notes. So much to get through. And next up, I'll be highlighting the real problems facing this country, as typified by an incredibly woke, arrogant, obnoxious Channel 5 presenter who I'll be calling out in a special Dolan's dispatch, gaslighting a woman from Crowborough worried about illegal immigrants in her town. It's disgusting, it's horrific, and that is next.
Hello from Crowborough, where the local residents are enraged with what has happened to their community merely overnight, when just 27 single male asylum seeker illegal migrants were bussed into their military training camp. Behind me are local residents, people from all over the country. Shabana Mahmood has said that this is an effective way of getting rid of those expensive, flashy asylum hotels. But unfortunately, these people are still placed within the community.
The whole town is very afraid because these are unvetted men from countries that are, the government warn us not to go to.
I've got an 18-year-old daughter and she gets the bus opposite camp.
Do you feel safe for her?
No, so that will have to stop. Right. We'll either have to wait with her or take her to wherever she needs to go.
The reason I'm here today is because I live in Crowborough and my family, I've got a wife and children, and just worried about, my wife walking to work and my sons, walking about. Anything can happen. Kind of that nowadays and age, what's going on, what's happening in this country. So I'm just concerned and frightened,
There was support from other towns, other communities, because of course Shabana Mahmood has threatened other communities, and she said they're going to open site after site after site. Well, I would hope that if she's going to try and do that, she learns some lessons about the way she's done it in Crowborough, because this is not finished. We are not finished objecting to this plan.
Grover says no! Grover says no! Grover says no!
We would urge her to reconsider, and whatever she does, she needs to talk to the people that she's imposing these things on.
If you had a direct line to Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood, what would you say to them?
Look after your most vulnerable first. It's your priority to look after your vulnerable.
If they're bringing illegal immigrants into a camp in the dead of night, why are they doing that? They're doing that because it's disingenuous, it's dishonest, it's covert, and they're trying to keep the reality away from the local community of what they're actually doing to us. We've now got to the end of the entrance to the camp, we've got cameras, we've got police drones. It's like a cloud that's come over this community.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
3 minutes past 9. I'm Mark Dolan. This is Talk Breakfast. Happy Saturday, one and all. Your weekend starts here. And breaking this morning, Starmer on the brink as his poll rating slips to -49, with a clear majority of the public now wanting him out. Could MPs move to unseat the Prime Minister before the May elections? We'll bring you the latest on a PM that may have just weeks to survive in the top job. Meanwhile, a fresh Labour scandal as former Cabinet Minister, the architect of the New Labour project, Lord Mandelson, begged disgraced financier, of course the ex-paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, to pump money, thousands of pounds, into his bank account the bank account of his husband whilst a cabinet minister, and a wall of silence from the press. And a fresh headache for King Charles as his brother Andrew once again is embroiled in a fresh Epstein scandal, with the financier having fixed up a lunch with a beautiful young Russian woman, with an excited Andrew saying he can't wait, give her my number. So what can King Charles do about his problematic brother and the bad headlines that won't go away? And with approval ratings of -49, it's provably and statistically the case that Keir Starmer is the least popular Prime Minister since records began, even unpopular among his own voters. But is he the worst Prime Minister of all time? My number is 03444991000. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. Send us a voice note, and as the saying goes, let's talk. And we kick off, as always, at this time every Friday and Saturday and Sunday with Dolan's Dispatch. They don't get it, do they? Channel 5 star Matt Allwright takes a call on his daytime TV show from a concerned female resident of Crowborough, where 500 undocumented young men from countries and cultures far different from our own are about to be accommodated at an army training centre. She was gaslit, she was judged, she was patronised. Take a listen as she explains on national TV her heartfelt concerns about a real threat to her way of life. Take a listen. This is her on Channel 5 speaking to a presenter called Matt Allwright.
Just know that a load of women and young girls are walking around, even in the day, with alarms. They've taken self-defence classes, and they are just genuinely worried.
Why? And there you go. He says why. A very cynical look on his face. Why would you be worried about 500 undocumented men from alien cultures landing in her town with a population of about 20,000 people? You couldn't make it up. Anyway, here's the next part.
Because there's been quite a few rumours that a few of the migrants have already escaped.
That's right. Migrants have already escaped, and she's right to point that out. These people are free to roam. But here's what Matthew Allwright had to say.
There are rumours. I mean, I'm not aware that there's anything to escape from. They have free passage in and out of the camp, don't they? They're not kept captive there. I mean, that was the case.
No, so they're not kept captive, but obviously all of the residents in Crowborough are just so worried about them possibly coming nearer to the town and harming all the women.
Why would that be the case, Lucy?
Why would that be the case, Lucy? 500 undocumented men who have broken the law to enter this country on a dinghy. 500 undocumented men of fighting age who have paid criminals to cross the channel. Why would they be a potential threat, given we don't know who they are, whether they've got terror links, whether they are sex attackers, whatever their mores as human beings, we simply don't know. But Matthew Allwright wants to know why that's a problem. It goes on.
I mean, do you have men in Crowborough? You have men in Crowborough already. What's different about these men?
You have men in Crowborough already. What is different about these men? This is a mainstream TV host who doesn't know the difference between a British person born in this country, growing up in the culture of this country, following the laws of this country, compared to 500 people from far-flung destinations that may well have a different attitude to women and may have a criminal past. They may have a criminal past because we don't know who they are. Anyway, this on-air travesty continues.
I think it's just other people that have said, obviously, that they're dangerous. They're not. I don't know. It's just all the other rumours that have gone around all the other towns. I think it's just scaring all the women and their men for their wives.
I mean, with respect, though, Lucy, those rumours, you can choose to believe them or not.
OK, so this is a man telling a woman who lives in a small town where there are 500 strangers about to turn up, right, fighting-age young men. He tells her that there may be rumours that some of these men are dangerous and that it's her decision whether or not to believe those rumours. Well, let me tell you that males have always been an existential threat to women, OK? It's men that attack women, it's men that rape women, it's men that murder women, it's men that are responsible for 99.9% of sex crimes against women. And now he's telling this woman, concerned about a bunch of strangers turning up from an overseas far-flung location, that maybe she shouldn't believe any rumours. What do women do? Women talk to each other and they warn of danger. And if you're a woman, history will tell you it's your job to listen to rumours about a threat to you and to believe them. But Matt Allwright wants you to ignore these rumours and go, la, 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 nothing to see here. It goes on.
Have there been any incidences of violence or aggression or sexual misconduct or anything like that reported?
I mean, not yet, but obviously they've only been there a few days, so there's still time.
Yeah, there's still time. They've only been there a few days. Matthew is literally offering the sort of legal defence of these people that have broken into the country, 500 of whom we don't know. I mean, I agree that 500 men of any background rattling around a small town with nothing to do is a problem, but it's a far greater problem if it's people that have broken the law to be in this country, of whose backgrounds we have no information. But Albright doesn't understand that. This brave woman does. Lucy's concerned, but she's being gaslit, judged, and frankly hung out to dry on national TV. But I'm afraid it goes on.
And to Lucy's point, there have been asylum seekers in hotels across the country that have murdered and raped women.
And there have been non-asylum seekers, there have been white men who have done exactly the same thing.
Here we go again. Woke bingo, white men now. So there have been white men that have attacked women. And what Matthew Allwright doesn't seem to understand is that if there are people here that shouldn't be here because of lax border control, that's an aggravating factor. There are indeed white men who commit the most evil crimes, and they are disgusting. They should be locked up and throw away the key, of course. But what the left don't seem to understand, and the media and political establishment, is that it's an aggravating factor if somebody that shouldn't be in this country hurts and attacks and harms a British citizen. The bottom line is that was a shocking display, but I'm glad it happened because it was very illustrative of the problem. It demonstrated exactly why people are so angry, and it demonstrated why, notwithstanding the current power of the political and media establishment, change is coming. Bring popcorn. I'm delighted to say that Mary is in Hemel Hempstead. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Mark. You were asking the question about Starmer, whether he's the worst or whatever, and I think he is the worst because the others have done it out of incompetence, but his seems to be deliberate.
Well, this is a problem. A lot of people are saying this is by design, it's on purpose, but why would a Prime Minister do that, Mary?
Because he's probably not going to bother to stay in this country when he's finished and will go somewhere else and be on, who knows, he might even go to Russia. I wish he would.
Well, I have to say it is a concern, isn't it? Now, Mary, we've just played this sequence on Channel 5 with a daytime presenter taking a call from a woman in Crowborough who's worried about 500 undocumented men, and he's quizzed her about why she's worried. She revealed that there have been rumours from women in other towns that some of these men are dangerous, and he said, well, it's your choice whether to believe those rumours. What's your reaction?
Well, I mean, are all these people that are appearing in the newspapers being put in jail or what? Is that rumours? The thing is that we've got some bad ones in the country, we know that, but we don't need to import any. This is the problem. We're importing people that are no good, and they're coming from countries that really are almost barbarian. They have very little sort of to live with. No, nothing. What could it be like for, say, somebody coming from Central Africa or wherever, and he's suddenly presented with a nice flat or a house or a room, and he might have gone, turns on the tap and there's running water, whereas he might have come from a small village where you go to the well for water, you live in a mud hut, who knows where they come from. This is the problem. Life is cheap in these other countries as well. They don't care about people. They're quite willing to die for certain causes. They don't care. Life is cheap. And they regard us as nothing. And unfortunately, this Starmer or whatever is pandering to this because he doesn't care. You know, my husband, he sadly died 13 years ago. And he said then, well, long before that, in the time of Cameron, that when the parties get in power, it's a case of them and us. And that poor man John that you had on before me, he said everything I agree with, but he sounded really down, and I felt really, very sad for him.
I know. It feels like a hopeless situation, but we've been through worse, Mary. We've had 2 world wars, we've had pandemics, we've had economic crashes. We will prevail, but only with the mother of all political, cultural and societal revolutions. Mary, call me again soon. I always love having you on the show. Does Starmer have a plan for government? Here's a voice note from Craig in Sheffield.
Morning, Mark. Great show. I'm just recording your 2 panellists. They genuinely think that Keir Starmer hasn't got a plan. What world are they living in? His plan is to import as many future voters as he can, keep them dependent on the state, give them everything for free. He knows he's guaranteed future voters. The only way this is going to stop, and it won't be Nigel Farage, he's just not right-wing enough. He really isn't. He's just a Tory. And I'm going to vote for Farage's party, but he's not going to do it. The blob won't let him. We'll get a couple of years of Farage. It'll be a bit like Boris Johnson. Then we might get Zia Youssef. It'll be a little bit same. After that is what you've got to worry about, because you're going to get a Rupert Lord or probably somebody even more right-wing. But if it's not solved with Farage's, then you're going to see bloodshed on the street. Absolutely, you're going to see it. Don't matter where you walk these days, everybody, there's migrants loitering everywhere. Absolutely taking the bloody pee, and your panellists think, oh, Starmer's going to turn it around.
Powerful, powerful, and a rather damning voice note from Craig in Sheffield. Now, I've just run a clip of Matthew Albright on Channel 5 taking a call on that network in his daytime show from a concerned resident of Crowborough as they expect 500 undocumented males to arrive in their town to be accommodated at a army training centre. Maggie says, good morning, Mark. Matthew Albright is an ex-BBC presenter. You can take the man out of the BBC, but you can't take the BBC out of the man. How patronising was he? Steve says, Mark, I knew that interview with Matthew Albright on the Channel 5 show would enrage me. That poor woman. If we have to put up signs in our streets with a picture of not to defecate in the streets, doesn't that tell us something is drastically wrong with the interlopers? Michelle says, what a terrible man. How does one complain to Channel 5? He's telling that woman to just ignore her lying eyes. He's gaslighting her. Disgusting. Jackie says, thank you for exposing Matt Albright. The man is a disgrace and needs cancelling. Absolute emotional, belittling, misogynistic, degrading interview. That's Jane in Northumberland. With all respect to Matthew Albright, Lucy the caller, says Tracy, should have been more articulate and given facts. He just tore her apart. Mark in Stratford, good morning, Mark. Matthew Albright was the only one in that TV debate to mention people's colour, i.e. white. Strange that. Listen, we'll get more reaction on that very, very shortly. Let's take a voice note from Sandra, who says we've got a solution for the country.
We need a strong, patriotic leader like Margaret Thatcher, who wasn't intimidated by anyone.
There you go. What about this from David, who's left the country?
Hello, Mark. British head teacher here now, thankfully living and working here in Thailand. I don't know what's gone wrong at home, but living over here in the so-called third world, where I can tell you for a fact people are working significantly harder than us, we are totally finished in the UK. Here, where I live, I can get new tyres fitted for my car. I literally pay about 50p for the work. Any service I want, it's all available. And why? Because minimum wage is about £9 a day.
Listen, devastating, and I'd say I don't blame you, and I'm very jealous. So many listeners and viewers of this show say that if they had the money, they would be out. Jill in Northampton.
Morning, Mark. Great show as ever. I've just heard you talking to one of your callers, and as part of that conversation, you mentioned a costed plan. Literally a day or two before the general election in 24, there are 2 things that Starmer said in interviews. The first thing is, we have a fully costed plan. The second thing, we will put country before party. And at the time, those 2 statements did send a shiver down my spine, And I, for the first time in the whole of my life, and I'm nearly 70, sadly, this year, I was actually scared on the night of that general election. I was scared for the future, and nothing has happened to make me less scared for the future of our country. Something has to happen, and it has to be reform. Bye for now.
Here's a voice note from Nick on the threat of the Green Party.
Morning, Mark. I think the country is teeing itself up, and in particular in the big city metropolitan areas, for the Green Party to become the unwitting Trojan horse for Islamist parties that can't gain any traction or legitimacy in their own name. And I think this is where we're going. And you watch Gorton, Denton and Gorton will be taken by the Greens, and this will follow time and time again in all the metropolitan areas. We are in dangerous territory here, and the Islamists are taking over this country via the ballot box. Mark, have a good day.
And last but not least, Pete with a voice note calling into the show.
Keir Starmer. I think maybe this Keir Starmer actually needs to be looked into, because how deep is he in with this ECHR? Is he part of it? Because he seems to be going along with everything this ECHR says, doesn't he? Never seems to go against it on any whatsoever. Also, he's starting to resemble now that character off of Wallace and Gromit, Feathers the Penguin. He actually looks like Feathers the Penguin, to be honest. This man is a disgrace going to China. You know, does he think that a 30-day visa-free travel to China is going to be okay for the country? Who the hell in this country can afford to go to China in the first place anyway, even if they wanted to? This government needs to be changed. It needs to be an election as quick as possible.
Yes, indeed. What kind of country will be left when the nation goes to the polls in 2 or 3 years' time? Listen, so much more to get through. Is Keir Starmer the worst Prime Minister in history? And your reaction to my daily dispatch today, the Dolan's dispatch. What do you think about the Channel 5 presenter Matthew Albright belittling and gaslighting a caller to his show, worried about 500 undocumented men turning up in her town? Did he have a case in point? Was he right to point out that there are British men who commit these terrible crimes too, that there are strangers who are dangerous, whatever their background? Does Matthew Albright speak for the majority of people who actually welcome immigration into this country and don't wish to demonise those who have come from overseas, particularly those seeking a better life or fleeing persecution? Do you want to throw a bone to Matthew Albright and support his position? 0344 499 1000. So much to get through. This is Talk Breakfast.
did say, no, the rights of the asylum seekers are above the rights of the British people.
Shabana Mahmood is going onto these media channels and saying that she's been, engaging with communities, engaging with police. She's engaged with no one.
The latest is that Brooklyn could be set to sign a 7-figure book deal, and it's the same publisher as Prince Harry's Spare. That makes me shudder.
And Mel B wasn't there. Scary wasn't there, so I'm going to step in. I'm here. I'm ready for it. Nigel, I'm sorry. I'm joining the Spice Girls.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
The Channel 5 presenter Matthew Albright stands accused of gaslighting and patronising a caller to his TV show, concerned about the impact on Crowborough residents of the arrival of 500 undocumented young men. We're going to replay that sequence in the next part, and I want your reaction. So give me a call, 0344 499 1000. It's an interview that's gone viral online for, I would argue, all of the wrong reasons. So book your place in the next part of this show to react to that interview with Matthew Albright. 0344 499 1000. With me in the studio is the political editor of The Sun on Sunday, Kate Ferguson. Good morning, Kate.
Morning.
Another day, another bad set of headlines for the Prime Minister. The small matter now of a poll rating of -49, which is actually, no pun intended, colder than the North Pole. And I just wonder, with these historic levels of unpopularity, whether Labour MPs might consider moving before rather than after May.
It's astounding, really, just how personally unpopular the PM is, how personally unpopular his big number two is, Chancellor Rachel Reeves, and just the government. Will they move before May? There's always this kind of chatter, like, do you move early to try and save your councillors before they're all annihilated in what we're all expecting to be a Labour bloodbath in May? I suspect it's just much more likely they go later. PM obviously only just saw off that Andy Burnham threat, which really was an attempt to get into Westminster in order to decapitate the king and take his crown. So I suspect the other cabinet ministers sort of jostling for permission or for position will take their time a bit more and probably move post-May.
Well, that's interesting. Well, look, I trust your judgment on that one. What about the Epstein files? Why are they important to my viewers and listeners?
I mean, these Epstein files, it's another day, another kind of tranche of emails, photographs. You almost can't really believe it. It's so lurid. The latest one that's on the front pages on the Sun today is the revelations about Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew, or the man formerly known as Prince Andrew. Epstein arranging for him to see a Russian girl for dinner. I'm sure that was just for her conversation. And also him inviting Epstein to Buckingham Palace after conviction. And the big scandal here is that Andrew kept up this cosy relationship, crucially, after conviction, so he can't plead ignorance.
Most definitely. Now, by the way, just to say, we've got a call out. So Matthew is taking your calls this morning. And Matthew, try and get me a female listener to react to Matthew Albright's sequence on Channel 5, which has proved very, very controversial. I'm looking to hear from one of my fine female listeners or viewers to respond to that interview, and plus plenty of blokes as well, but I would like to hear from a woman first because it affects them directly. There is also this issue with Lord Mandelson, whose then partner and now husband appears to have been receiving, allegedly, thousands of pounds into their bank account, courtesy of the largesse of Jeffrey Epstein. This is while Peter Mandelson was the business secretary sitting in the cabinet.
It's crazy. I mean, you look back on it and the conflict of interest and kind of greed and complacency and all of these exchanges are kind of wild. So Peter Mandelson, your listeners will remember, he lost that job as US ambassador after that first tranche of emails about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein came out. New revelations, his partner at the time, now husband, got 10 grand from Epstein for an osteopathy course. What I don't understand about this is why he had to go cap in hand to Jeffrey Epstein in the first place. As you point out, Peter Mandelson, always a very rich, quite powerful cabinet minister, at that time business secretary. They'd be earning enough money to pay for their own courses. So it just feels like this kind of culture of easy money, largesse, the rules not applying to them was just so kind of widespread that it just became common. And I honestly think my readers, your listeners, will be kind of outraged, but also flabbergasted to think that people are just going to their mates to demand money for their own professional development.
Most definitely. It's extraordinary. And this is no ordinary former Labour cabinet minister. This is Peter Mandelson, the architect of the entire New Labour project, the brains behind the operation. And this is a guy whose partner was receiving thousands of pounds from a convicted sex trafficker. And yet,
apart from one or two papers, I cannot see too much coverage. And I just wonder, I mean, The Sun have covered it very well, but elsewhere, it's nowhere to be seen. And I want to ask you that, is this politically motivated? Do you not think if it was a former Conservative cabinet minister or a sitting Reform MP that there'd be more noise about this?
Well, I would suspect this is partly that they dropped late and that Peter is quite lucky that Andrew is all over the front. I would say that the Mandy stuff is the front of the FT, but I think Andrew's kind of knocked Peter Mandelson off the fronts here. But I know we're going to be looking at the Peter Mandelson thing again because it raises really big questions, not just around Peter Mandelson's conduct, but also when he was recently appointed, brought back into the fold to become US ambassador. What questions were he asked about his relationship with Epstein, which we did know about? Did this information come to light? Did he reveal this? Will we ever be told? And also, Peter Mandelson, he's not sitting in the House of Lords at the moment because he's taken a leave of absence. But he is theoretically a Labour peer who could go back to the House of Lords. So where does this latest scandal leave his political position?
Well, it's been a massive week for big political stories. Cannot wait for tomorrow's paper because it's going to be packed with exclusives. Number one for Politics Scoops, The Sun on Sunday. Their political editor is Kate Ferguson. Kate, look forward to seeing you hopefully in a week's time. Fantastic stuff. Next up, well, the switchboard has melted, actually. It's smoking slightly because Matthew... How do you pronounce his surname, Dean? Matthew Albright with a B. Matthew Albright from Channel 5 has been on his daytime show. Now, in my view, gaslighting a caller from Crowborough worried about the arrival of 500 undocumented men. We're going to play that clip and we're going to speak to you straight after your calls. We're going to go back to back with this 0344 499 1000. I want you to listen to the interview again and I want your reaction. This is Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, folks, listen, this has broken the internet. This is Matthew Albright, who is a presenter on Channel 5. On his TV show, he spoke to a caller from Crowborough, which, of course, is about to have 500 men turn up at the Arming Training Centre, illegal immigrants seeking asylum. She was worried. Here is the full clip, and we're going to get your reaction straight after. Take a listen.
Just know that a load of women and young girls are walking around, even in the day, with alarms. They've taken self-defence classes, and they are just genuinely worried.
Why?
Because there's been quite a few rumours that a few of the migrants have already escaped.
There are rumours. I mean, I'm not aware that there's anything to escape from. They have free passage in and out of the camp, don't they? They're not kept captive there. I mean, that was the case.
No, so they're not kept captive, but obviously all of the residents in Crowborough are just so worried about them possibly coming nearer to the town and harming all the women.
Why would that be the case, Lucy? I mean, do you have men in Crowborough? You have men in Crowborough already. What's different about these men?
I think it's just other people that have said, obviously, that they're dangerous. They're not. I don't know. It's just all the other rumours that have gone around all the other towns. I think it's just scaring all the women and their men for their wives.
I mean, with respect, though, Lucy, those rumours, you can choose to believe them or not. Have there been any incidences of violence or aggression or sexual misconduct or anything like that reported?
I mean, not yet, but obviously they've only been there a few days, so there's still time.
Well, listen, there's a lot of anger out there about how Mr. Albright treated that caller. Josie is in Leicester. Josie, what's your reaction to that clip, what you've just heard there?
let me tell you to that Albright, and I'm telling him loud and clear now, we are women and we are British women. We do not get ruled by the third world mentality that are coming into our country. We don't want them. We don't want them here. They're illegal and we want them out. I am British Asian. I've worked all my life in this country and I'm sick to death of seeing third world men coming into our country dictating the way we should dress, the way we should look, we should do things. We are British women. Get them out of our country.
Now, Matthew Allwright, Josie, has said that there are white British men that attack women. What is the difference between a white British man and an undocumented illegal immigrant? He says, what's the difference? What do you think?
Mentality. White British men are white British men. What are we going to do about it? They're brought up in this country, but they're not brought up with third mentality, where they treat the women second, third, fourth-class citizens. They have ruined our lives. They have absolutely gone out of their way to make sure that we are third class and we don't have a right in this country. Who the hell does this Allwright think he is? I don't care. Get him on the show with me and I'll put him in his place, just because he's got a thing in between his legs and he doesn't understand what is about a woman and to be safe out there. It is absolutely horrible out there going out as a woman. You can't even go about your own way without being stared at or lured at. You know, when these men look at you, they're not looking at you, they're looking right through your skin and your bones.
And Josie, you speak as a British woman of colour, so this is,
yeah,
I would assume from your part, not a racist issue.
Why is it racist? I'm telling you, I'm getting sick to death of people saying it's racist. It is not racist. If these men, honest to God, they really just do not get the third world mentality. You are never going to change that. No matter how much integration you're going to do in this country, if you're not born in this country, you will never get it. You have to be born in this country to be integrated and to be our British values. You haven't got a clue. You can't just import people and they think, oh, we'll take on, or we'll do this with them. They never will. Never in a million years. And you mark my word, to this day, you bring these words in 10 years, 30 years, 20 years, they will never, ever, ever change.
And Josie, what do you make of Mr. Allwright's suggestion that if this lady in Crowborough heard rumours these men were dangerous, that it was up to her whether to believe those rumours or not, and he asked for evidence of crimes?
They're not rumours. Listen, I've travelled so many places. I've worked in third world countries. They're not rumours. These are factual things. What gets me, people come here for safety. Women come here from third world countries for safety. Then you know what they do? They go back on British values, go back on British things and say, oh, well, we'll vote that guy in bloody Birmingham because he's in our religion and all that BS.
Yeah.
And he turns around and turns it all round because people come here for safety and then they turn all the women around to what they think is right. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. We need a massive decutter of the whole lot of them. The Boris wave out. We don't need them.
And how symptomatic, Josie, do you think Matt Albright's handling of that interview, that conversation with a local in Crowborough, was of how the media view this issue?
I think his view was absolutely disgusting. I'm sick to death of this far right, far left, and all of this BS that keeps coming out every single day. This country is so depressing with the whole same BS every day. It is nothing to do with that. These are illegal migrants. I'm telling you, I have never, ever known this country to accept anybody in our country. Never, ever accept anybody without undocumented. I mean, who the hell do they think they are? To think that they can just carry on getting away with it. People, Epping, Crowborough, wherever, Leamington. I travel up and down the country. Like you know, told you, it's not even. They're taking our freedom away. They're absolutely taking our freedom away, and it's not on.
Josie, a devastating call, and I'm very glad that you've made it. It's interesting, isn't it? On this TV show, they talked about, you know, why should women be afraid of an undocumented male? Well, we have news in the last 24 hours that Deng Majek stabbed Rhiannon White 23 times with a screwdriver in a frenzied 90-second attack in 2024 after following the 27-year-old to Bescott Stadium railway station in Walsall. Handed a minimum term of 29 years at Coventry Crown Court. Now, is there a defence to be made for Matthew Allwright's handling of this interview? Does he have a fair point that there are people in this country with white skin, indigenous Brits, people born in this country who are a threat to women? Does he have a point that perhaps we shouldn't demonise people that have come to the country seeking asylum, looking for a better life, escaping tyranny? Is he, in his handling of that interview, that call with Lucy, reflecting mainstream public opinion, which is that if you're fleeing tyranny, if you're fleeing persecution, you've got a right to be here? We're talking about refugees. Is he right to imply that we shouldn't demonise those 500 men arriving at Crowborough, who likely, in the vast majority of cases, will be seeking a better life? If you've got a word of defence for Matthew Allwright, I would really appreciate that. 0344 499 1000. There's no doubt that plenty will agree with him. Many will say this is a racist response from those worried in Crowborough about the 500 men. Derek's in Manchester. Derek, what do you say on this?
Oh, how are you, Mark? You all right?
I'm very well. Derek, I don't know if you saw the interview live, but I've just played clips of it. Lots of people quite angry.
Yeah, it's typical left-wing bull from most of the stations, isn't it? Sorry, but I mean, it's been going on for years. It's what you come to expect from them. Simple as that. But that wasn't what I called about. It was about your original question, which was, do we think Starmer's the worst Prime Minister ever? He's the worst of a long list of bad Prime Ministers, which really is why this country needs to adopt some sort of a system where we can hold these people accountable for what they've done. They've destroyed this country, and I know of several of them that I would have in front of the courts and sue the pants off them, so that, future MPs go to that place and decide that they're going to do exactly what they said they were going to do, and the best for the country and not for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, that is the problem. I mean, Derek, whatever happens to a government serving the interests of its own people?
Well, exactly. They're serving their own interests. They're lining their own pockets. You've only got to look at that thing with Mandelson, and the thing is, I mean, it's like the manifestos, isn't it? The manifesto should be a legally binding contract. Simple as that. Because if you're going to promise to do something, you should have to do it. You should be forced to do it. And if not, there should be a recourse to call another election. Simple. It's so simple, it's unbelievable. But these people won't pass laws like that because they know it'll affect their future income.
Well, I'm afraid they always look after number one, don't they? Derek, I took a call earlier and it was John who was very concerned about the future of this country.
Brilliant.
And he, wasn't it good? What was your reaction to what he had to say?
Absolutely brilliant. It was amazing. And, really, you want to get him on the show.
Well, I agree. I think he should have his own show on Talk, alongside Georgina and you, Derek.
You want to give him a seat next to you because he talks a hell of a lot of sense, and he says he's speaking for the majority of this country. I don't care what anyone says about that. He's speaking for the majority of this country. But as I said before, whoever gets in next, really, we need to get some assurances from them that in future, so that this can never, ever happen again, a manifesto is followed to the letter, and if it's not, it should be open to public debate as to whether they carry on in government or not, if they're not going to keep to the manifesto. And the other thing is, we should be able to recall a parliament if they're not doing the job that we expect them to do. I mean, we're stuck with this lot for the next 3 years, whatever it is. Can you imagine what the state the country is going to be in by the time they've finished?
Oh, don't even go there. Derek, thank you so much for your excellent call. Call me again soon. Josie called the programme, very angry about Matthew Allwright's handling on Channel 5 of a caller, a woman called Lucy in Crowborough, worried about the arrival of 500 undocumented men. Guy says, gotta love Josie, what a gal. Josie for PM, says Steve. Mark in Southampton, fantastic call from Josie, speaks for all decent Brits. Allwright is an absolute disgrace. Diana in Kent, I just love Josie. She speaks for the women of this country. She speaks for me. I've got to say that call, that whole sequence was, for me, the reason why I get up in the morning and have the privilege of doing this show. It's why I go on the radio and on the telly. Let's give the last word on this to Kitty and a voice note.
Good morning, Mark. Outside the Islington elite, Albright outed himself as a bully, a misogynist and a racist. He is extreme left-wing in his views, he's virtue signalling, and he's one of the dangerous people who has a voice on our TV, who doesn't say what is right and doesn't say what is correct, but he says what he thinks should be said, and that all of his little champagne-quaffing, champagne socialist buddies will pat him on the back for and have a good old laugh at the poor working people out there paying their wages.
Kitty, I'm so glad that you've contributed to this conversation. We love you, Josie. You go, girl. That's Suzanne in Norfolk. And the list goes on. Sharon, Josie from Leicester. That was so powerful. I think she should become an MP. Paul from Kent. Good morning, Mark. Take a listen to this, Dean. Wow, mate, just wow. What a show this morning. It's been explosive, world class. Listen, Paul, we're here to serve. And that's what we're going to keep doing on Talk Breakfast throughout the week. The brilliant Jeremy Kyle, Monday through Thursday. Talk Breakfast with my good self every Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So much more to come. Keep it Talk Breakfast. It's 9:45.
Did say, no, the rights of the asylum seekers are above the rights of the British people.
Shabana Mahmood is going onto these media channels and saying that she's been, engaging with communities, engaging with police. She's engaged with no one.
The latest is that Brooklyn could be set to sign a 7-figure book deal, and it's the same publisher as Prince Harry's Spare. That makes me shudder.
And Mel B wasn't there. Scary wasn't there, so I'm going to step in. I'm here. I'm ready for it. Nigel, I'm sorry. I'm joining the Spice Girls.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Listen, folks, so much to get through in the next 10 minutes, and I'm delighted to say Peter Cardwell is up in just 10 minutes' time. By the way, I've got a message here. Could someone please tell Mark Dolan to stop talking to the people in the behind the scenes when he has people on the phone? It is very rude. And I will say that a number of you have commented, that I'm kind of like producing the show whilst also presenting it, and you're absolutely right about that. Of course, I do listen to every word because I'm a classic man, right? I'm very good at multitasking. But thank you for the feedback. Yeah, I do have to communicate with the lovely Dean Spencer, our executive producer, but I still take the point, and thank you for that. Keep that feedback coming, because I'm here to serve you. You're my boss, and I want to make sure you're happy. I want to thank you for all the calls and the voice notes and the texts today, because it's been a very busy show, and we shall do it all again tomorrow at 6 a.m. Also, I'm back on Monday as a special unwanted guest appearance. Right, it's 9:49. Live in the studio is the brilliant broadcaster Steve Denyer from Virgin Radio. Good morning.
Good morning. I love the way you do it. You speak to the guys. You kind of put your hand up, don't you? Or there's like a paper up here, and then you're talking, and then it's amazing.
Well, listen, we are very lucky to be in broadcasting, because you're there at Virgin to entertain the nation, which you do every morning with the baby breakfast. And what we're here to do is to conduct the national conversation and to discuss what people are concerned about, and have air those issues on both sides.
Of course.
And listen, it was ever thus, isn't it? Now, what year? This is Retro Rewind. When we choose a year to look back on, where are we going to go?
So there I was the other day looking at this Take That documentary, which is just launched on Netflix. It's a great snapshot into the 90s, and we did 96 last week, and I thought, actually, let me look back, because Take That got their first #1 Prey in 1993. So I've delved into 1993. We'll get to the Take That in a second, but let's start politically. In 1993, it was it's a meaty year, because John Major launched his Back to Basics. I'm going to try and keep a straight face here. Do you remember what happened during this year, the Back to Basics
Well,
campaign?
I do, because this was essentially John Major trying to sort of sell the idea that politicians were going to serve the public interest, and they were going to behave themselves and be morally upstanding.
And be rooted into family values. And then, of course, we saw, week after week, extramarital affairs, sex scandals, cash for questions, that was this year.
Yikes.
It all started to unravel in quite a spectacular fashion. I can't remember a Sunday when John Major and his government weren't on the front of the news of the world.
Yeah.
Literally, they unravelled big time. I won't go into every incident, but there were lots of them in 1993.
Most definitely. It was the fag end of a long-standing sort of Tory government.
Like the beginning of the end, really, wasn't it?
Yeah,
really was.
And it paved the way for the Blair years, ultimately in 97.
The other massive thing that happened in this year, 1993 was the first year. It was the year that the Queen started paying income tax, and she paid capital gains tax as well. Do you remember this was shortly after the year that she coined was her Annus Horribilis? So you had the Windsor Castle fire, and there was a huge controversy over us paying for the renovations of Windsor Castle.
It was about 60 million, wasn't it?
It was a lot of money, wasn't it? So she voluntarily, because the spotlight was on her, so she decided. So that year they opened up Buckingham Palace as well for the very first time. She opened up her home. People paid money to have a look around. Of course, that still happens now, doesn't it? Renovating Buckingham Palace.
And isn't that the genius of the British monarchy? Because lots of other monarchies have fallen around the world, and I think the reason why it survived is because of this umbilical relationship with the public and public opinion. I'm always remembering Queen Elizabeth's mother, the Queen Mother, during the Second World War, in burnt-out London, walking on rubble and meeting people who's just lost their homes.
Yes.
And it was the Queen Mother who used to say, we go out, we open hospital wings, we meet the public, we're paying our rent. So it's a monarchy that's always been mindful of the public mood.
Yeah, and in the 90s, they really had to step up the mark. Obviously, 4 years later, with Diana dying, the nation's mood changed. And again, so the 90s was the hell of a decade. This was also the year, if we look at like showbiz and music, the first massive controversy involving a global superstar was the Michael Jackson 1993 event, when he had to make this statement. Some might say the most kind of emotional statements we've ever seen up until this point. I've got a little clip of him at Neverland in 1993 talking about the sexual allegations.
In no way do I think that I am God, but I do try to be God-like in my heart. I am totally innocent of any wrongdoing, and I know these terrible allegations will all be proven false. Again, to my friends and fans, thank you very much for all of your support. Together, we will see this through to the very end. I love you very much, and may God bless you all. I love you. Goodbye.
He was in the middle of the Dangerous tour at the time and travelling around kind of Asia when these allegations started of wrongdoing at Neverland, and actually this Michael Jackson musical that's on, it's called MJ the Musical, is set in this year, but many people cite 1993 as the year that his career started to unravel, and of course this particular allegation was sorted kind of in a civil court, and a payment was made the following year. But 1993, do you remember the Oprah Winfrey interview where we really got a snapshot of Michael Jackson's life? And I think a lot of people felt quite uneasy with what they saw, and it all happened in this year, 1993.
And it's quite topical. What I love about Retro Rewind is that you choose a year from the past, but there are often parallels with where we are now. And just this week, Michael Jackson's former head of public relations has said that they, and I quote, absolutely believe that the singer was guilty of child abuse. We will, of course, never know the truth. Has it tainted his musical legacy?
It's really interesting you say that. We still play Michael Jackson. You still hear him on radio stations.
He's on my Apple Music. Yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine not listening to Beat It.
April the 24th is this biopic that's being released. It's about, and the Jackson estate have given the nod to this. Michael Jackson's nephew is playing Michael Jackson. That will be the big movie this year. So it's interesting. And you know, the show, the live show in London's West End, is a sellout night after night after night. People in this country, people all over the world come into this country to watch it. People love his music, I think, but feel very uneasy with the person, the legacy, and what we know now as well.
And I think you have to just separate the two, don't you? You're one of the country's leading music broadcasters, and you're not going to not play the Earth song or Billie Jean, because if you were to do that, you could have a revisionist approach to every musical artist, couldn't you?
It's difficult. It's a very grey area, I think.
Yeah.
Let's go back to talking about Take That, this documentary. It's a wonderful thing. Girls fainting outside Dixon's on the High Street in 1993. It's a three-parter on Netflix. Take That got their first #1 in this year. Do you want to have a little look at the trailer? I mean, this is the 90s. Look at this.
Here's Gaz and Howard. Say hello.
Right, OK, you're about to witness something that you've probably never witnessed before.
Perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself to the nation.
I'm Robbie.
I'm Gary.
I'm Matt.
I'm Owen. I'm Jason. And we are... Take That!
Take That was about 5 people. We bounded into being pop stars in the 90s.
They're really good looking. They're the best band that ever lived.
And I didn't expect any of it. It's mega.
Brilliant clip.
It's great, isn't it? The hair, the fashion. They really had to work hard to make it to this year and to get their first #1. They did a tour of schools, a tour of nightclubs. The first couple of songs didn't make it. Nigel Martin Smith, the manager, he remortgaged his house because he was just sure that these boys were going to be a thing. And then it was Gary Barlow wrote this song called Pray, and they decided to go down this route of a classy video, black and white video, lots of flesh and stuff. But really, 1993, it was the year of Take That. And this documentary on Netflix just charts where they came from. And it was just a last-minute decision to even involve Robbie Williams, who was here in the News Building a couple of days ago, you know, and he's now broken this record of more #1 albums than the Beatles. But it all started with Nigel making a few decisions back in the early 90s, and they were the band of a generation before, you know, Oasis, before the Spice Girls. You had Take That there in 1993. So it's a great little documentary.
And they wrote the large bulk of their material thanks to the songwriting gifts of Gary Barlow.
Of Gary, yeah. And he makes all of the money because he wrote all of the songs. And, you know, there's a great little kind of demo of Pray. And he wrote Pray when he was like a teenager. It's incredible stuff. It really
million
is.
love songs. I mean, there is... that's the point. They looked good. Yeah. They could dance. They were well marketed. But the music was decent too.
It was decent. It really was. Back for Good and, you know, Never Forget and all those songs.
Although, Take That, right, not quite cool enough for Virgin.
No.
I
used to play them at other radio stations.
On another level.
We're more kind of Oasis, Blur, Suede, you know, Pulp, and
a little bit deeper, a little bit more soul, a bit more rock and roll.
This is it.
If I dare say,
rock and roll.
By the way, surely one of the funniest comedy films of all time.
Go on. Mrs. Doubtfire. Should we look at the clip? I've got a little clip for you. I just love this movie. One of my favourites.
I'm placing an ad for a housekeeper.
Housekeeper? Could you make me a woman?
To have both.
Wow.
Let's pray.
Hello? Euphigenia Doubtfire.
Papa's got a brand new bag.
Genius.
It cemented Robin Williams as a real kind of family. You know, he went from kind of an edgy comedian to a family entertainer. It took 4 hours every day for him to change into this suit. Apparently they had so much material because lots of this was him just being Robin Williams, messing around in the fat suit as Mrs. Doubtfire.
Improvising, doing his own versions.
Hours and hours and hours. And apparently the scene where he catches himself on fire really happened.